Good evening. Welcome to the Vineland Board of Education, August 25th combined meeting. Roll call, please. Ms. Leary.
Ms. Acosta.
Here.
Mrs. Kataspati.
Present.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Here.
Mr. Holmes.
Here.
Mr. Rivera.
Here.
Mr. Sabrana.
Present.
Mr. Silva.
Here.
Ms. Spinelli.
Ms. Spinelli's not here, and she did let the public know that she had business out of town and her flight got delayed, and she apologizes.
Thank you. Mr. English.
Here. In compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law, commonly referred to as the Sunshine Law, the Vineland Board of Education has caused notice and posting of this meeting to be sent to the following, announcing time and place thereof, agenda, etc. The Daily Journal, SNJ Today, the Press of Atlantic City, Nuestra Comunidad, Visto Bueno, the Clerk for the City of Vineland, and the Administrative Office Public Bulletin Board. At this time, I ask that everyone please rise for the flag salute. At this time, I ask that everyone join me in a moment of silence in memory of longtime coach, educator, and friend, John Parentazzi, longtime security guard at Durant and Winslow, Juan Bernard Sr., and Matthew Kuhnreich, son of former Vineland Board of Education president and longtime educator in our district, Terry Kuhnreich. Thank you. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families, the Parentazzi family, the Bernard family, and the Kuhnreich family. Ms. Leary, do we have a resolution for executive session this evening?
Not at this time.
At this time, do we have any special presentations this evening, Mr. Yano?
Yes, we have two presentations. I will make my way over to the podium.
Thank you.
So we have two presentations this evening. The first presentation, we will be honoring a few of our students. So we're going to start with our student presentation first, and then we'll go into the road forward. So Mr. Holmes will be assisting me up here in the recognition of our students. I believe we have our middle school principals here as well. If you'd like, you could join us up here. I would appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming this evening and supporting your students. So today, this evening, we are honored to have the opportunity to recognize middle school students from Vineland Public Schools who were honored on Saturday, August 7th at Landis Park at the second annual Unity Day. And we know it was a wonderful event. Our principals sent us information about the students, so I would like to call each of the students up. And they will receive a certificate from our Board of Education, okay? To begin, Amarie Calderon from Wallace Middle School. please come on up. And here's the statement that was read on her behalf. Perseverance was on display as this young lady overcame injury to continue to pursue her athletics. Her teachers comment that she always displays a good attitude and puts forth great effort. She is also an outstanding student who maintains straight A's. Hang out for a second. Straight A's through 8th grade while holding perfect attendance. That's exceptional. She's a great example of kindness and friendship to all of her peers. She is always there to lend a helping hand to her peers and the staff in her classroom. Let's all hear it from Ms. Calderon. You got a picture? Okay, so thank you. And if you don't mind, maybe just move to the side a little bit. I want all of our students up there together, so hang out with us. All right, cool. Next. Samuel Ajamin from Wallace Middle School. Samuel has worked hard to achieve straight A's in the 4th marking period. This is from last year. And as an ESL student, he has put the hard work in to achieve his goals. His teachers always mention that he's cooperative. He always demonstrates a great attitude and effort, and it is a pleasure to have in class. He's also demonstrated outstanding attendance, which is exceptional. We love that. He's a kind young man, respectful, and he greets all staff with a good morning and a smile when he enters the building each morning. Thank you, Samuel. And we have another student from Wallace, Rachel Gonzalez. We'll give her a minute to get up here. It's kind of a long walk. Rachel is an outstanding student who brings a smile to all she encounters. Rachel is a member of the National Junior Honor Society, and as a member, she spearheaded the newly created Rock Garden in memory of Mrs. Cherie Kokoro, school security guard who died of COVID earlier this year. She donated materials and worked with her peers to decorate the rocks that were placed in the garden. Rachel is a dancer, a cheerleader, and a friend to all. Let's hear it for Rachel. Excellent. Okay, next. Let's see, from Memorial School. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. If I'm not, you can correct me. Kylie Spickenruther. Kylie is an 8th grade Veterans Memorial School student who has shown acceptance of others and an energy of love and kindness during her years at VMS. She's a silent leader who strives to make the world a better place for everyone. Kylie truly cares about her school community, her Vineland community, and people of all backgrounds. Kylie brings a lot of joy and positivity to the lives of others on a daily basis and is often there to lend a helping hand. Kylie leads by example, in being the change one wants to see in this world. Outstanding. Good job, Kylie. Next, we have Kyman Marie. Kyman is an 8th grade VMS student who embraces the differences of others. He has a gentle, calming spirit that allows others to feel welcomed and to feel a part of a family. Many times, Kyman can be seen making sure a fellow student is not struggling by offering help in any way he can to that student. Kyman always has a smile on his face and a warm, welcoming demeanor toward everyone. He absolutely loves music and he loves to dance. His energy is infectious, and many find themselves dancing or singing along with him. Both of these students, Kylie and Kyman, are wonderful examples of the peace, the unity, and the love and energy needed to make a better world. Thank you. Next, we have Samuel Vidro from Pilla School. Samuel, he displayed academic and civic excellence throughout the academic year. He excelled by earning straight A's and showed talent in creating several stop animation infomercials to support our schools, the Pillar Schools community service projects. Congratulations for a job well done. Let me call one name just to make sure that the student did not arrive late. Angela, is Angela here? No, okay, I don't believe she was able to make it tonight. Okay, just want to make sure. Principals, wonderful students who've grown so much under your direction. Thank you for the work that you've done with this fine group of young adults. I hope that we can have this event again next year and recognize more students for wonderful displays of their, the work that they do in your buildings, led by you and your staff. Mr. Holmes, thank you for your support. You attended the event and you were able to honor the students at that Saturday Unity Day event. So let's get a picture with our students here, please. Yes. Thank you again. And thank you, parents, for all your support, for bringing your children out tonight. It means a lot to us. Thank you. Okay, so next we have our presentation on the road forward with some additional updates. So I hope all of our board members are able to see the display up here. We're going to jump right in. Okay. At our last board meeting, I presented with the support of our leadership team an update on the road forward, our plan to reopen our schools for in-person instruction. And this evening, we're going to provide, or I will be providing, a shorter version of that presentation, which will also go on our website, and it will be translated in Spanish, just to highlight some of the major changes that we've seen in just a few weeks of time. But I'd like to emphasize to begin with that, again, we know that our schools will provide full-day, full-time, in-person instruction for the 2021-2022 school year. That is the plan. That is what we are working towards. We also want to just remind everyone that all schools will operate on a 5 full-day regular bell schedule. Per the governor, there will be no virtual or remote option available to parents this year. All instruction will be provided in person. And just an update around free lunches. Our students will be receiving lunch provided by the Department of Agriculture at no cost to the district, and we continue to really focus on providing a strong academic program along with our sports and extracurricular activities, which will continue as they have done every year. Masks are going to be required for all students and individuals entering any of our school buildings. We also have a form that needs to be filled out for all of our students, the Statement of Assurance for COVID-19, which is in Genesis. Parents should have been prompted already to sign off on that form as you begin the school year. You only have to do it once, but we want to make sure that our parents are screening students daily at home. Students who are sick should not come to school. Classrooms with Mr. Fornaccio and his team have been already set up to allow reasonable social distancing at a minimum of 3 feet in every class where possible. Contact tracing, again, will continue based on the guidelines that we've established with the CDC, and there's also an update in this presentation around contact tracing. And all of our cleaning protocols that we were used to seeing in last year will continue with some slight modifications. This question has come up multiple times, so I added a slide. Many parents are asking the question, what if I don't want my child to go to school? I want virtual as an option. There are 2 areas that keep coming up. Home instruction versus home schooling. Home instruction, they're different. Home instruction is provided to students enrolled in our school district who need it for a medical reason. There is an application process, but a doctor coordinates with our school health physician. They fill out a packet that verifies there's a significant medical issue that will cause a child to not be able to come to school, and now it's on the district to provide an education, whether it's through a tutoring program, access to instruction after school hours. We have to come up with a plan. Home instruction requires a medical reason. We also provide home instruction for students who have been disciplined for 5 days or more, and they've been removed from their general education program. But in this case, in the case of COVID and virtual instruction, home instruction must be approved by a medical professional with a diagnosis. Then there's homeschooling. Homeschooling is an option that every parent has. You can decide as a parent to remove your child from the school district. All you need to do is just let us know so we can have maintain a record that your child is no longer being serviced by Vineland Public Schools, and that parents will take on the responsibility of providing that instruction. That is an option for parents to take. Homeschooling is a removal from the school district, and the parent takes the responsibility to educate the child. So that's just a quick definition of home instruction versus homeschooling. So a couple updates to our Road Forward plan. Again, we know that students benefit from an in-person program. We have learned that vaccination continues to be the leading public health prevention strategy to end COVID-19 pandemic. We know that masks should be worn indoors based on our CDC guidelines, and that we should try to maintain as often as possible 3 feet of physical distance in our classrooms. Here's an example of the Road Forward document. It was updated on the 20th, just recently, with some new components that are being highlighted this evening. So the key takeaways, again, for our Road Forward is on the left-hand side, there are many layers of prevention that we're going to put in place in all of our schools. Screening, testing, ventilation, hand washing, staying home when you're sick, contact tracing, and cleaning and disinfection, right? On the right-hand side, we also know that we're going to monitor the community transmission and vaccination coverage rates, screening, testing, occurrence of outbreaks with the City Department of Health. We are going to continue to do that. One of the biggest changes you'll see is that we are now looking at vaccinations and surveying all of our staff and students, not all students, students in 6th grade through 12th grade, on their vaccination status. As a school district, we need to know, or at least receive feedback from families, especially on students and their vaccination status. If we don't receive the information from families, we are directed to assume that a child is not fully vaccinated. This impacts students who are in our athletics programs and the number of days you would be required to quarantine if you were exposed and have symptoms and do not have a positive test or a negative test to COVID. What we do know right now is that all New Jersey school employees must be vaccinated for COVID or undergo regular testing. We learned recently that the New Jersey Department of Health will be funding testing once or twice a week for staff members who do not have a vaccination on record with the school district. That proposal has not been submitted to any school district because it's still being developed. But the mandate came out, vaccinations are required. All staff members who do not take the vaccine or have a vaccine on record will undergo testing. That testing will be funded at this point through the Department of Health using federal funds and ESSER monies. To get ahead of the process, we wanted to survey our staff and see where are we right now in terms of vaccination coverage. And we have about 1,664 employees, give or take. We received a great response, over 1,030 respondents. 87% of those respondents responded that they actually have the vaccine already, with a smaller percentage not having it. And we asked them, are you planning on getting the vaccine? Of that little blue piece of the chart, those who recently said, no, I don't have the vaccine, but I'm going to get it, that's about 50 folks. 50 of our staff members are willing to receive the vaccine at this point. They may be scheduling through their own medical provider or through the school district. We also looked at students, our students. Eligible students, around 5,100 students. We asked how many kids received the vaccine. We had over 1,800 responses. This is accurate as of maybe 3 hours ago, so the number keeps rising. 59.5% did not receive it. 40% did receive a vaccine already. So 40% yes of that 1,806. But the next question we asked is, well, are you planning on having your child receive the COVID vaccine? So all the students who we received a no response, 16.6% of that group are saying yes, we will receive the vaccine as long as the school district can help support. So we are coordinating with the Department of Health to provide opportunities through our local health providers to get students connected to a vaccine. and that's also restated here in this next slide. So it's important to know that only a little while ago we presented this information to the Board of Education. On the left-hand side, you see the current status of New Jersey. A couple weeks ago, everyone was in yellow, under moderate. Now there's a large section of the state that's under a high level of COVID activity. Again, on this slide here, just wanted to show you that on the right-hand side, that's what it was a couple weeks ago, with 11.4% daily new cases. Now we're at 21.6. This is in Vineland. And you'll see on this side here, we had a 1.25 infection rate, which actually dipped. Now it's at 1.10, so that's a move in the right direction. But then on the next slide, you'll see that our positive test rate is at 6.6%, compared to just a few weeks ago, it was at 1.8%. So just wanted to give you some local statistics and how it changed pretty incredibly on the positive test rate and the daily new cases. So masks in the road forward. We received an update from the governor. There's a mask mandate. All students, staff members must wear a mask within school grounds, at these board meetings, in any district office. That is what is being required. There are possibilities for exemptions. I've listed them there for you. They're all linked to like a health condition, documented medical conditions, disabilities. We are going to take those on a case-by-case basis for staff members through our Human Resources Department, for our students, if they have a disability, through our Special Education Department, if they have a 504, again, through the Special Ed Department who's handling the 504 and our work around masks. So we're looking for support from our staff and our students to continue that. What I see in our buildings is that everyone seems to be adhering to this mask mandate provided by the governor. Another big change is contact tracing and the quarantine guidelines. There is an exception for schools that's important to note, and it's at the bottom of this page. In the past, if a student was positive and another student was a close contact, we had to quarantine and isolate both students for an extended period of time. The exception now is, I'll read it right from the slide, in the K-12 indoor classroom setting, the close contact definition excludes students who are within 3 to 6 feet of an infected student, if both the infected student and the exposed student correctly and consistently wore a well-fitting mask the entire time. So it adds another layer that we have to adjust. We have to talk with our nurses to make sure they're aware of this exception, that just because you are exposed to someone, if you were wearing a mask and that child had a mask on as well, you may not have to quarantine. In the past, you had to quarantine. This has changed. The next bullet says, this exception does not apply to teachers, staff, or other adults in the indoor classroom setting. The expectation is that this will significantly reduce the number of students who have to quarantine on any given day because of this exception. This is written right from the CDC guidelines. No changes on physical distancing. Again, we are encouraged to have a minimum of 3 foot. In the cafeteria, if we can do better than 3 foot, it would be great. Our numbers that are in our lunches will dictate the number of kids who are at a table, and that will change by building. Mr. Farnaccio and his team have been going out to schools, meeting with principals, designing classroom layouts and lunch cafeteria layouts, setting up our plexiglass shields, and in some cases, adding additional equipment as needed. No changes to our hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette expectations. We want everyone to keep clean hands, use soap, use Purell when you get into a class, just to make sure you're practicing good, healthy habits. Meals, again, no changes from the last time that we presented this. We expect that we're going to maintain physical distancing between staff and students to the greatest extent possible. Each building has a different layout. This is exactly what we presented last time, but we want to make sure that we are with our food service department. We have a meeting coming up soon just to review what it will look like in schools, but there'll be very minimal self-serve, or I don't believe there'll be any self-serve options. Everything will be prepackaged to avoid any cross-contamination. And again, under transportation, with Mr. Hall and his team, buses will be cleaned daily. Students and drivers will be in a mask at all times. I want to focus on, again, this part has not changed as well. If a child is required to quarantine due to having an exposure that and having symptoms, we are under the requirement of providing instruction still. And our plan at this time is to have students log in to their classroom via Google, a Google Meet, a Zoom, so they can receive instruction. We're still constructing how that will look. As the numbers increase, if they increase, we might have to make an adjustment. So everything that I'm telling you around the instructional side may possibly change as things get better or things get worse. So just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of that. Under our facility-related practices, there's no changes to our plans. We're just continuing to do the work in our buildings to make sure everything is ready for the first day of school. So at this time, I would like to, that ends and concludes the update to the presentation for what we are looking at this moment. The two biggest changes, masks and vaccination status of staff and students. Can you lift that, yeah, we're gonna take the screen up and we'll turn it over to Mr. English, and if there's any questions, we'll go to that component, and I'll ask my team to be ready. If there's any additional questions that are specific to their areas, I'll ask you to come up and be able to respond as well. Okay. Do I just close this?
Thank you, Mr. Yano, for the detailed update. It is much appreciated by the board and the community as well, I'm sure. A couple questions that I have, and then I'm going to open up to the board as well. As I was reading through this, it said all schools will operate on the 5 full day following the regular or the regular bell schedule. When it comes to the bell schedule, and this is just for my knowledge, we eliminated bells at some buildings. Are we back to bells or bells in every school? So we're operating with all bells, no more.
Right, we have bells, signaling period changes. At the high school, we put the bells back on.
Okay.
And middle schools as well, we have their bells as well.
Perfect.
Thank you for the thumbs up.
Thank you for that. And then I guess the giant elephant in the room is the mask mandate. Everyone that I've spoke to has valid points. I respect everyone that has contacted myself, board members. Maybe I get a clarification from Mr. DeSanto as well. Many people would like to see the Vineland Board of Education follow suit like other districts have done and go with an appeal process concerning what the latest mandates were. And although it sounds great on paper, I respect and I totally understand it when he was using the words recommendations. But now when they start using the words mandate and ordinances, correct? I mean, I'm not one bit happy with that because I don't really like to be told what to do. But I also understand that we are at the mercy of this governor's decision here. So just so the public knows, the board's under a lot of heat here because people think we can wave this wand and just supersede the governor's decision. But when it comes time to do an appeal, can you explain that process, Mr. DeSanto, to the public and the board?
First of all, we should understand that a governor's executive order has the power of law. We know we have commissioner regulations, we have statutes. Well, executive orders are very similar in terms of if they are mandating certain things, they need to be honored. I understand that a couple of districts or several districts have filed a challenge to the governor's executive orders. And the basis for that challenge is basically that it's unconstitutional. In other words, it's beyond his power as governor to do these. Those appeals that you call them, or challenges as I call them, affect every school district. If in fact a court determines that the executive order is unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional as to all school districts. You don't need to be a party to that litigation in order to have the decision apply to you. You know, obviously there are certain cases in which it's actually unique to that district. Well, that district has to be in that suit. But this particular challenge, in my judgment, does not require any other districts to participate or what we call intervene, because the decision is applicable regardless of whether you're a party.
Thank you. So realistically, we do things by the majority of the board here. If the majority of the board said to me, Mr. English, I would like us to file that appeal, of course, we would make a motion and we would do something like that. It's important to know that as board members, many board members, when you run to be a board member, you know, your platform always surrounds student safety, staff safety, etc. So we have the safety factor, and then I also consider us custodians of the taxpayers' money. So is it fair to say, Mr. DeSanto, that because other districts have already filed this challenge or appeal, as I say, once the decision, if the decision falls in favor that it is unconstitutional, then a new mandate would come down that reverses what's currently there, correct?
No, it would just negate what's there. It would leave.
Okay.
Okay, but I just want to make sure that it's understood. In many cases, people think there's strength in numbers. Oh, I'm sorry. In many cases, people think that there's strength in numbers, and somebody would argue, well, you know, if we had 10 or 20 more districts in that litigation, that's somehow going to impact the court's decision. In my many years of practice, I've never seen a court be persuaded by numbers. You know, they have to make a decision based upon what's presented to them, whether 1 district, 10 districts, or 100 districts appeal. This is only my recommendation. The board is free, of course, to direct that we intervene in that litigation. It's just my recommendation that I don't see the practicality of it or the need to incur that kind of expense.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. DeSanto. Does any board member have any questions concerning that? You know? Yes, Ms. Cottis-Body?
So I'm just going to clarify that should an appeal win from another school district, it would just revert back to prior to the executive order,
Yeah, whatever.
which would be the governor leaving it in the hands of each school district, as opposed to him mandating us to do this.
Yeah, I cannot predict what the court would do. The court has the authority to fashion a remedy for those litigants. The court may say, we determine this to be unconstitutional, and the governor is given 20 days in which to implement new regulation, new executive order. I don't know what they're going to do, Mrs. Cottis-Body. All I can tell you is that if it's declared unconstitutional, whatever those mandates are will be off the table, and either new ones will replace them or we will see a reversion to what was in place before they were enacted. I can't tell. Okay.
Oh, I have a question. I'm sorry. These appeals, we know there are some that have gone up already. Idea of a time frame? Is there a time frame? Are we going to sit forever waiting? I mean, there's a lot of people kind of...
Yeah, I have not seen the court papers. I only know from what I've read on the internet. But I can say to you, these kinds of challenges are usually done on an emergent, expedited basis, because a court process could take 2 years. It would be rather ridiculous to even file a challenge if you're not going to be able to get an answer in a relatively brief period of time. So, that could be 10 days, 20 days, a month, I don't know, but I can't imagine it's going to be, in a long period of time.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the mass? Concerning the roadback plan, if indeed a student or employee of the district was to show up without a medical reason, without a mask on, what is the protocol and what will happen?
Well, we hope we're not going to be in that situation, right? So because that'll be very challenging. No one wants to get upset about this type of scenario where someone feels like their rights are being infringed on. But the mask mandate is a mandate. There's an expectation that every school district executes that mandate. School principals are directed to enforce the mandate at their school. If an employee shows up without a mask to work, he or she will not be allowed to enter the building, especially if there's no medical documentation. If there's medical documentation on file that is an approved mask clearance through our Human Resources Department, that building principal will be very well aware of who has that exemption. Without that, the staff member would not be able to come into the building. We want to avoid any type of scenario that involves something like that, because that would be disruptive to our students. It would be a challenging situation. But yes, we have to, as employees of the school district, who follow what our governor has told us we have to do, we will have to execute that and enforce it.
Thank you for that. Concerning what we had to do PPE-wise, shield-wise, and everything since COVID has taken place, are we continuing to put the shields in the classroom, or is it staying as is? Are we temperature checking? Are we doing, in other words, all that initial cost that went out there, are we still utilizing the equipment, or how are we handling that?
Everything is still in play. We continue to purchase additional supplies using our ESSER funding and our district funding. Mr. Fornacio and his team have done an excellent job looking at ordering more masks, ordering more shields as needed, ordering whatever equipment we need to make sure our buildings are ready for the new reality. He's also put into play at our K-5 schools outdoor seating for students to get a mask break and also to have lunch outside of the building. There are more upgrades that Mr. Fornacio could speak to if he could please come up to the mic. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. English, to your question, there's mitigation efforts. There's mitigation efforts in several different areas. So we're trying to socially distance. Excuse me, I think I'm going to sneeze. We're socially distancing where we can. We're looking at classrooms, keeping distances as far apart as we can. I'm meeting with principals and teachers, moving things out of the classroom. And so we're dealing with those challenges. In regards to lunches, for example, where we can face kids forward and keep distances of 8 feet apart or more, we are not selecting shields. In cafeterias where kids have to face one another, we are using shields. So no building is, we don't have cookie cutter buildings. Everything's unique. We have different square footages in the classrooms. So these are different mitigation tactics that I'm working out with the principals. They've been super supportive, as well as the staff members. We're trying to, when we go in and we look at the classrooms, we're trying to see if a classroom, teachers have their manipulatives, all of their supplies, so there's conversations that have to happen at a certain level. We just don't want to pull things out of a classroom where a teacher may need them. So we're restructuring classrooms as the teachers are, a lot of teachers have come back in to do early setup. So these are the tactics. As Mr. Yano spoke, we have ordered some outdoor cafeteria seating, which can be utilized for in good weather days, classes, or an outside lunch perhaps. Again, different tactics. The thermal equipment remains installed, and to my knowledge, everybody is planning to use, every principal is going to use them. We do have some upcoming conversations in regards to how things are set up. We set them up based on a hybrid scenario. Now we've got full in-class, everybody's back. So I know several principals have vocalized this equipment's on tripods that have the flexibility of being moved around, relocated. We're thinking now we may want to start permanently mounting some of this stuff, because where these things were put off to the side in a classroom with a low student level, there's now a full class in there, and it's just going to be a challenge. So these are some of the things that I've been trying to work on in conversation with the principals and things. But yes, the same mitigation tactics from last year are being incorporated in this year. It's challenging because we have a full building, but I mean, we're accomplishing the task. We're doing well. I think everybody's on board, and it's a team effort. No sneezing.
I'm reading it right now, but as far as the full cafeteria, we're back to getting in line, getting our trays. We're doing that same thing, or we not? It's not just strictly. I had some parents nervous that it was going to be the brown bag lunches, and that was it. Everybody's getting a cheese sandwich and have a good day.
No, I can assure you, I don't believe, Mr. Patel was here earlier. He explained that we are going to be offering the full range of meal options. It's just, it'll be delivered differently. There won't be a buffet option. Everything will come prepackaged, but it won't be what it looked like in the past. He's committed with his team to make sure that kids have great lunches and breakfast.
Okay, I asked enough questions. My fellow board members, do you have anything?
What if a student or staff member refuses to wear a mask?
So that, just going back to the earlier question, which I was able to, it's unfortunate, right, if that occurs. If a staff member does not have an exception, or an exemption, I should say, then that could lead to a disciplinary process. We don't want that to be the case. Students, it's an educational process that we have to go through with our students to make sure that they understand that it's a requirement to wear a mask in school every day, and we will have to enforce those rules. What we saw over the summer school, our ESY program, and our summer academy, we had thousands of students, I believe. Mr. Fry gave us an update earlier, and everyone was wearing their masks. There weren't any issues. Staff were wearing their masks as well. So we expect the same. I was at the freshman orientation at the high school, and we had hundreds of families come through. Everyone complied. It was very positive. We know there will be some students who challenge what we're trying to do, and it's an educational opportunity.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah, I also wanted to add that the Q&A that was issued by NJEA encouraged their membership to comply with the mask mandate. And that's helpful when the state union recommends and suggests that you would anticipate compliance by staff, and other unions would probably follow.
Ms. Acosta.
Will each school have a supply of masks in the event a child forgets their mask, so as not to prevent them from attending school that day?
Absolutely. Now, if you show up for school, we're going to get you a mask if you need one. Mr. Fornaccio and Mr. Salerno, they both did the work of ordering the equipment and then delivering masks to every building, so our school leaders have a supply, I believe in the front office and also in the nurse's office, where they'll use if a child shows up without one.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Rivera.
Is there a policy or practice in the schools where students or staff members are able to take a break from wearing a mask? Because right now I'm going crazy and just wearing this one. And I went,
No, I hear you. This is definitely a challenge, and it's a learning curve for all of us. But our students who came in hybrid last year know what it takes to wear a mask, although they will be longer. Our teachers are encouraged to take mask breaks. Students, if you drove by the schools like in May and June and over the summer, kids will go outside, they're taking the mask off. When they're outside, there's no expectation that they need to wear a mask unless they're right on top of each other. So our teachers will be encouraged to make sure students have the opportunity and for themselves to take a break from that mask.
Out of respect for the teachers that really expressed themselves verbally, shields are not allowed in place of masks?
Masks are mandated. A shield can be an additional layer of protection. There are specialized types of masks that we use for speech therapy and different programs that our special department supplies, but a face shield does not take the place of a face mask.
Thank you. Realistically, it keeps coming back to the word mandate, which was different than recommendation in prior times. And I can just tell you in my personal world, being a licensed plumber in my own business, I took the mask out of my vehicle because I thought it was over and, we're moving on. But in order to put food on my table, I have to plumb, and there are customers now that are requiring me to wear the mask again. So needless to say, if I want to put food on the table, I adhere to what my customer wants. Am I happy about it? No, I'm not happy about it, as a lot of people aren't. But if you go 80 miles an hour in a 50 zone, what do you get? A ticket. I mean, it is what it is, man. So I hope we can really figure this out like adults and be good role models for our students, because they're only a product of what they see. So I don't have any more questions. I thank you for the update, and I'm sure Ms. Cataspati has.
I'm sorry. I take after you tonight, Mr. English. I just want to thank you for clarifying, because I've had parents come to me over the past year about speech and their special needs child being able to see. So I'm happy to hear that there will be some type of exception or mask that will enable them to be able to see the face. That's important, I think, because I know a lot of students had problems with that. So.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
With respect to phys ed, especially at the high school, middle school level, where kids generally are changed, are they still going to be going into the locker rooms, getting changed for gym?
Yes, so full-time, regular instruction, all of our routines and procedures are back in play, but they'll go to phys ed class with a mask on, and then when it's time to exert themselves, they'll take the mask off. If they're doing a health lesson, they can keep their mask on, but anything that requires any heavy type of exercise, they will have to take the mask off. Our phys ed teachers will be encouraged to take the students outside as often as possible, with the appropriate weather, of course. And Ms. Gladowski gave me the thumbs up as far as Kim Kataspati's question regarding the specialized equipment for our students and our staff.
And I do have one other thing. Thank you, Mr. Costa, as well. I guess I can probably address it later, but I'll address it. I'll address it later on when we discuss. I just want to take a second to thank you for the road back plan. It's what we need to know. And again, as board members, I just want the public to know we aren't the bad guy here, and it's not the new superintendent as well. It really comes back to what the governor has pretty much laid out there, kind of last minute again as usual, but it is what it is, and we have to digest it. And to be honest with you, I don't think he's finished before school starts. So I imagine the hard work that central administration has been putting in, and the entire district, from the principals to everyone, you've been doing a great job, but you're at the mercy of some crazy decision-making, unfortunately. So, I just can only ask that everyone works together as a team and makes Vineland proud. That's the key for me. So I appreciate that. Does anyone have anything else? Okay, at this time, we don't have any minutes to approve? Do I not have anyone here? No approval? Do we have any committee reports at this time? It is our second meeting, so we can also do the committee reports in September if you're not prepared. But if you have a committee report, you can go ahead and let it fly. Ms. Acosta.
The Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology Committee met on August 16th. In attendance were Mr. Fry, Mr. English, Mr. Silva, Mr. Sobrana, and myself. We discussed the sample curriculum ideas and the Vineland High School course selection manual. We also discussed the elementary and secondary grading guidelines. We discussed the instructional model committee agenda. We also discussed the administrative academy, which I understand just took place. And also we discussed the preschool acceptable use policy for computers, Chromebooks.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. It was a good meeting, and as always, it's very informative. Do we have any other committee? Mr. Sobrano.
I see Mr. Farinacci is back in the room. I did have a parent reach out and want to know how we were going to handle the deep cleaning that was done on Wednesdays when we were on a hybrid schedule. So could we get an update on that, please?
Yes, Mr. Sobrana, in regards to the disinfecting, the state is actually saying, or encouraging, that you don't over clean. They're actually talking about challenges with districts that come in daily and spray everything. They call it hyper disinfecting. Some of the cleaning agents have volatility. People can have reactions to some of these cleaning things that are EPA certified to kill COVID. So one of the things that distinctively changed from last year to this year was addressing the common touch points. And so these are the doorknobs, the light switches, and things on that nature. So our men have 3 different real protocols. In normal operation during the day, they're going to be addressing touch points throughout the day, the school day. Bathrooms. One of the things that we were able to spend ESSER 2 money on, we've replaced 2 fixtures in every bathroom. That'd be 2 toilets, 2 urinals, 2 sinks, with touchless sensor faucets throughout the district. So we were able to implement that. So regardless though, there'll be disinfecting of those touch points. We also have a all-natural EPA certified chemical product that we use during the daytime. It's safe. The new product is odorless. And so we're pleased about that venue. And it's actually food grade rated, this new chemical. So it can be sprayed right on a table with food nearby, no issues. In the evening, we go through and we use our electrostatic spraying equipment to disinfect, and then obviously we're cleaning as well. That's two separate things, cleaning and then disinfecting. During a COVID outbreak, now that's pretty much continuous from last year's protocols with the CDC guidance. That is shutting an area down if there's a classroom that has to be taken offline or a space, and then obviously we focus in on an additional cleaning and minimizing other exposure within the building. And then lastly, we run through all of, we've got the activities now in all of our gymnasiums, libraries, all the spaces that were pretty much offline. So we're setting up and implementing our protocols to do the same. We're addressing touch points during the day, and then in the evenings, it'll be a complete disinfecting.
So if I'm hearing you properly, that there is a protocol in place ongoing and not specific to one day more than any other day?
No, Wednesdays, in the beginning, the mindset last year, and there was definitely disinfecting going on, but we were doing other things as well in the building. And that's one of the things that the state keyed in on, the CDC guidance. People just going in and spraying all kinds of EPA-rated chemicals actually can hurt your body in a different way. So hyper disinfecting is something that they wanted to steer clear of. But we can accomplish those tasks in the evening every day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mr. Sobrano. Do I have any other committee reports this evening? Okay, seeing none. At this time, public do we have any, nothing by our support solicitor this
None.
evening? We heard enough from you tonight?
No.
All right, buddy, appreciate it. At this time, public comment on agenda items or any other matter. Do we have anyone this evening?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
First person we have is Nicole McBride. Nicole would like to speak on COVID concerns, cleanings between classes, and gym mitigation for COVID.
The school system in 3 different schools: Wireless, Vineland High School, and AMSA. I just wanted to make one additional comment. I think we have to be very light when you say that our governor's making crazy decisions. What I feel is that we need to be more safe than sorry, and my children have been home since COVID started. All 3 of my children have been virtual. Nobody has been sick. I expect the same thing when my kids come to school. No one to be sick. So whatever we have to do to make sure that our children come back home the same way that I took them, that is what I think is good. So it's not a crazy decision for the governor to do. He shouldn't have to make a mask mandate. I feel that you should automatically do what we need to do. There are some people that have health issues, children with disabilities, totally understandable. But we know that people are having parties, we know people are going on vacation, and my children, I want them to come home the same way that I send them to you. Not COVID-free, not sick. They have not had a cold, they have not been sick. I have a 15, 14, and 12-year-old. So I'm so sorry, I'm emotional. I understand the regulations are being followed by the CDC regulations, but again, I feel that we need to go up and beyond what the governor suggests. We say that 3 to 5 feet, they will not have to be quarantined as long as they're wearing their masks properly, but if they're taking them off to eat, if they're taking them off for gym, which is exertion, that means our children would automatically have to quarantine because they've been within the 15-minute time limit. The class is more than 15 minutes. So we're putting some guidelines in, but again, throughout the day, if that is their time for gym, everybody has lunch every day, then that will make my children have to quarantine. I work from home. That means my children have to quarantine. That means my business has to shut down because I do home child care. That is how I feed my family. And that is not fair to me. The way I send my kids to school is the way I expect them to come back, COVID-free. The question about cleaning in between the classrooms, I heard the one that's over the cleaning saying that, we don't want to hyper clean. I understand that, but again, when if you have classes that are changing in between classrooms, that means, again, there will be highly touched areas. You're talking about desks. They're touched just as much as the doorknobs are, the desk. I mean, every child don't touch a doorknob, every child don't touch a light switch, but every child does touch a desk and a chair. So we're focusing on lights, and we're focusing on doorknobs. But again, if that door is open, all the children aren't touching it. So more cleaning, I feel, needs to be done in between the classrooms, in between class times. I heard they say they're giving out a mask at school. Well, how about making sure the kids have masks when they get onto the bus? Well, the bus drivers have masks to ensure when the kids get on the bus that they have their masks on as well. Again, my concerns that I stated is not just for my children, but also other people's children. No one wants to have COVID into their home. If a child, my understanding, if a child has COVID in their home, that just because that child's not sick, that child can come, but the other children might be sick with COVID, but that child can still come to school. That child might be asymptomatic. Therefore, again, we're having gym, they're exerting. They can get other children sick. So again, I feel that we need to go up and above, like you say, the crazy decisions of the governor. We need to do whatever we need to do to keep our children safe. It was understanding, talking about masks, and as long as the kids are wearing their masks, but kids aren't wearing masks at home. And if they have COVID in their home, again, those children are susceptible to that. And again, this is just to stop the spread of the sickness outside of the home. If there's someone in the home, the children should not be allowed to school if they have COVID in their home, not just if they have symptoms. Knowing that a child will come for lunch, again, come to gym, and again, they're allowed to have no mask on. I talked about the buses. Again, my concern is to ensure that everybody, again, not just my children, but all children go home the way that they came. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Cindy Weber. The topic will be back to school.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Weber. I have one child enrolled in Vineland High School. Tonight I'm here to speak about the district's plan to return to school. Briefly, my children and I all have a complex genetic disorder that is paired with a subpar immune system. We are the people that get sick. We're the people that everyone's asking, well, what coexisting condition did they have? How come they died? Having this condition makes my oldest a target for bullies for most of the time he's in school. Since he's been remote, no one calls him an alien because of the size of his head. No one calls him stupid or tells him he's the spawn of a freak. They're talking about me. Instead, he engaged with his classmates online. He laughed, he enjoyed school, and he succeeded. Each and every class, he succeeded. His grades went up so much, he actually became a straight-A student for the first time. My son gained confidence. He started talking about colleges and careers. He sees an exciting future for himself. In his words, he doesn't want to get sick, and he wants to do his part to help our family in healthcare. Something changed in him during this last school year. He found a new love for graphic design and coding, and he used his free time to cultivate those passions. A few months ago, he started an Instagram page showcasing his work. It now has well over 1,000 followers. He regularly shares his artistic creations, as well as engaging fan fiction. This from a child who only a few years ago was a C student in language arts. We have some very smart and qualified experts in education out there. You have to know that the road forward leaves children like mine behind. You know that not every child lost learning last year. The research exists. Several school boards have used their platform to tell the governor about children like my son. They've passed resolutions at their board asking the governor for flexibility. Will you do the same? Will you be the education leaders and ask for flexibility for the families of Vineland? With all due respect, children are dying all over the country, children like my children. We have a vaccination rate that is below average. You yourselves talked about the merits of masking being optional. Community spread is high. What will it take? I have been at both of my children's bedsides, willing them to hang on and keep breathing. I have wept and prayed and cursed and questioned, just as many other parents with medically complex kids have. What do you need to see to act? Do you need children like mine intubated and fighting for air in this district? If it comes to that, I will hold each and every one of you responsible. You may be following policy, but it doesn't make it right. Rise above and be a model. Use your platform for good and give families like mine a voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Leah A. Topic will be mask and mandates.
What's her name again?
Good evening. So I wasn't even sure I was going to speak tonight, but a few things have been on my mind that I think...
Can you just, I'm sorry, can you just speak into the mic?
Oh, yeah. Is
Thank
that
you.
better?
Thank you, yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't even sure if I was going to speak tonight, but a few things have been on my mind that it's now or never if I say it. So, yes, I'm a teacher here in the district. Let's talk about the masks first. So, I have witnessed students crying their eyes out last year because they don't want to wear it. Because they're forced to wear it, they can't see their friends, they can't sit near their friends, they get yelled at if they high-five or touch their friends. And what am I supposed to tell these kids? Sorry about your luck? Too bad? I don't know what to say to them. You know, this is awful all the way around. We all are stressed out, we don't know what to do. We're all in the same boat, essentially. You know, and I blame the governor, to be quite honest. He is the one that has given out all of these ridiculous edicts, which, I'm sorry, you guys can debate mandate, law, not law. It's not a law, okay? There's nothing on the books. There's no statute. It did not go through the legislative process. This is all just done by our free will. You know, because we thought we were doing something good in the beginning. Here we are, over a year and a half later. Now what? We've spent all summer maskless, hanging out with friends, family, kids are having fun. Now they have to come back and face the same situation they felt last year. You know, you have students policing each other, pull up your mask. What, wait a minute, that's not appropriate. You don't tell somebody else what to do with their body. I'm sorry, that's just not appropriate. You know, I have yet to see legit studies, peer-reviewed, double-blind, where it has been done over and over and over, comparing all the types of masks, handmade, in a box, from the dollar store, you name it. Where are these studies? Okay, I don't want to hear the CDC saying, masks work. No, they don't work. Wear 2, wear 3, I don't know. Back and forth. No wonder why everybody's confused and outraged. This has to stop. It stops when we say it stops, because we have constitutional rights. We have our free will. And not to get, you know, religious or anything, but the man upstairs takes care of us. I don't want to see these children crying another year, telling me I don't want to be in school because I don't want to do this. I don't know what to say to these kids. That's heartbreaking. I didn't become a teacher to be the mask police. We need to stop this nonsense. We need to figure out something. Listen, viruses are always going to be part of our life. That's life. The flu comes and goes, that's life. okay? What we need to be doing is pushing exercise, healthy eating, things like that. That's what strengthens our bodies, not wearing a mask 24/7. If you look back at the pandemic of 1917, 1918, do you know how most people died? From the mask, bacterial pneumonia. And if you don't believe me, please go look it up. I have done my research, hours and hours and hours of research, because I've had nothing but time this summer to do research. I have researched the Nuremberg Code. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you what it is. If you don't know, go look it up. Everything that's being done is in violation of this. We are human experiments right now. Let's talk about the vaccine, the mandates. I have a personal situation, and this is not about me per se, because this is about the children, but I'm going to tell you my personal situation. I don't believe that my Creator in heaven tells me to put things in my body that I don't even know what they are. I don't know what they're doing to me. Okay, I have an autoimmune issue that was potentially caused by a vaccine. Obviously, they don't hold any liability, so I can't prove that, but that is one of the side effects of what I have. I'm being told by someone high up, my religious exemption is null and void. What I feel, what my Creator tells me, doesn't matter. What I believe in the Bible doesn't matter. Just inject yourself. Be a lab rat. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out later. Are you all going to be liable for something that happens to me again? Because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold everyone liable. Are you liable for all these children that are going to be forced to get the vaccine that may be getting sick afterwards? It's not approved, no matter what you want to think the FDA tells you. It's not approved. I have done the research. Go look it up. I'm not here to look up things for everyone. I'm just here to state the facts. We have free will. We have a Constitution that tells us we have First Amendment rights. We have religious freedoms. If you don't believe injecting yourself with something is what your Creator tells you to do, you have the freedom to not do that. You don't have the freedom for somebody higher up to tell you your religious views don't matter. Do what I say. What country are we living in? Ladies and gentlemen, my father was in Vietnam. Okay? He fought for this country. He witnessed things that probably most people will never witness in their lives. And if anyone was in the services, thank you for your service, because you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I stand up here right now for the children to stop this nonsense, let them get back to their lives, let them have their childhood, and I stand up here for our religious freedoms, our constitutional freedoms, and I stand up here for the men and women who are fighting for our freedoms, who have fought for our freedoms and gave up their lives. We are not a communist nation. We have the rule of law, which is the Constitution, and we have free will. And that is what we should be allowed to have. If you want to wear a mask, wear it. That is your free will. You want to take a vaccine, take it. That is your free will.
Excuse me, we have a 5-minute time limit, and you're running close. I apologize, but please wrap up. Thank you.
Okay. So all I'm saying is respect my free will, their free will, everyone's free will. But we have choices. That's what your Creator says. You have choices. Make your choice that you think is fit for you, but you don't get the right to tell someone else, no, that's not your choice. That's not how it works. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else?
Yes, we do. Next, we have Amber Egarove. She would like, her topic would be mask and vaccinations.
Good afternoon. I am a teacher in the district, and I am here today to support the parents and teachers who are speaking out today for mask choice. I appreciate all of your clarification and your consideration with this thus far. As a teacher in the classroom, I can tell you that I watch the students touch their masks. When we take it off for drinks or snacks, it's put on the desk. They touch it again, and this is after harboring all the bacteria and all of the exhaust in the mask while it grows and gets worse. And then they go on with their day. Of course, we encourage hand washing and common sense hygiene. However, I'm also watching adults here wearing masks do the same thing with all due respect, touching it, taking it off, touching it. It really just shows how masks aren't effective. There have been plenty of scientific studies showing that masks do not stop viral particles from escaping because the holes in a fabric or a store-bought mask are larger than a viral particle. So this seems to be just a safety net that makes people feel good, but it's not really doing the job that we're told it's being done. I'm supporting the parents who feel with every fiber of their being that covering their child's airways is against all things rational of good health and of life. As a teacher, I literally suffocate while I'm trying to read to my students or teach them, and I watch you as you go to speak and take it off so that you can be heard articulately, and because it's uncomfortable to speak for lengthy periods of time with a mask on. If our students are to learn, they need to hear us, they need to be able to communicate with us, and they too need to be able to speak. When my students came in this past year from remote learning, I saw students who had low self-esteem, who were looking at the floor when they entered the room. These are same students that I had from the year before because I went up a grade level and ended up looping with some of my students, so I know them very well. I could see that they were not the same child they were before with their mask on. I had a former student write an essay about me this past year, and she wrote in that essay that my smile had made her day every morning. And I wonder, will our children now be able to make those same connections with the great teachers in our district without being able to see emotion, without being able to see smiles? How will they know how we feel? How do I know how they feel? My own son, who was in preschool last year, came home every day with his mask soiled and wet, even brown inside, and I wash it daily, which all of them are not being washed daily in our classroom. And he would get sick, not with COVID, because I was forced to test him in order for him to return to school, which I highly regret, but with other respiratory infections because he's inhaling his own exhaust every day, and he has asthma. He needs to breathe fresh air. In this past year's summer program where my children attend school, they did not wear masks at any point in time. They did not have social distancing, and they did not have outbreaks. None. And now they have to return to covering their airways. The second topic I'm here for tonight is to speak for my friends and my colleagues who, over this past weekend, weren't sure if they were going to have a job anymore this Monday. Last year I was Teacher of the Year. This year I thought I would lose my job because I'm choosing fresh air, sunshine, real food, and exercise over pharmaceuticals. I'm being told to put something in my body, and it's not mandatory, not yet, because last year when this started, we watched it every step of the way. They'll never do this, they'll never do that, there'll never be a vaccine passport, we'll never have to show our credentials, but here we are. Here I am, and I'm going to have this test done to my body multiple times a week, likely, to make sure it's safe for me to be in a classroom with children who were sent to school healthy.
Excuse me,
I went to school
excuse me,
healthy.
Amber. I
Yes.
apologize, but we have that 5-minute time limit, so
time.
I need you to wrap up, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. Also, those who are vaccinated, and this is proven, can get infected with COVID, can get sick, can pass it, and why am I going to be tested and everyone else is not? Let's use common sense. Let's stop listening to the media, and let's start thinking for ourselves.
Thank you.
Next, we have Connie Giovanazzi. The topic will be optional masks.
Good evening, everyone. I have been a dedicated special education teacher in the district for 18 years. And as well, I'm a very concerned parent and grandparent. Throughout my personal training, my schooling, and my time as a teacher in the district, I've always remembered 2 points that I've taken with me from my supervisors and from my professors. And being in the special education curriculum, they always taught, number one, not every child is the same. Every child is an individual, and we were taught to treat every child as an individual. And the second that always stuck with me is to advocate for students, your own, the kids that come into the classroom. They are like my children every single year. And I'm here tonight to ask you all, as some of my fellow colleagues have already brought up, is that we all have the option to choose for our own selves, for our medical freedoms. And I too would like to speak to you from an educator's point of view, as I've seen how masks have greatly affected my students. I work in the self-contained classroom at the high school, and our setting is much more personal, as we have fewer students for the majority of the school day, and the same students for multiple years in a row. Our program's goal is to educate our students to integrate into the community with a greater understanding and implementation of job-related social and daily living skills. What I've noticed since returning to in-person learning while wearing a mask has been extremely disheartening. There has been an increase in the frequency of my students using asthma pumps. Students have difficulty breathing. My outgoing and bubbly personalities have become quiet and withdrawn. Their eye contact while engaging in conversation is much less, and age-appropriate social interaction with peers and staff has diminished greatly. Other areas of concern which have become problematic are students' attention spans have shortened. Their inability to focus during lessons has increased, and there's difficulty with them following along. Many of the complaints that I've heard from my students are being dizzy, having headaches, and they have trouble breathing. Students have expressed their disdain for wearing masks because of the way it makes them feel, and personally, I agree with them. This was our experience last year when we only had modified schedules. What's going to be like in September when we go back to 8 full hours, 7 hours a day? I myself, as a teacher, I find it difficult to talk and to deliver a lesson to a group of students in a classroom that is much smaller than a typical classroom. They have a hard time hearing my instructions, and they appear lost, and they easily become more anxious and worried that they're lagging behind and not completing the work correctly. They rely heavily on our facial expressions, but the masks impede their ability to see the nonverbal cues and the lip movement that would indicate to them an appropriate or inappropriate behavior or response to both learning and in social settings. It troubles me that I cannot see them smiling when they have a proud moment and they've accomplished something that they've been working on since the beginning of the year, or when they're upset and they're about to have a meltdown. It takes a longer response time for me to be able to see them so that I can help them before it gets to that point. As a healthy adult, I find it difficult to navigate throughout the day. My throat is sore from talking through the fabric covering my mouth. I have headaches, I feel foggy. My breathing is labored just from walking from one hall to another. I feel anxious when wearing masks, and that's with taking frequent breaks, and it does not help me. I've noticed that I am compelled to be less engaging with my coworkers and my fellow staff. In all honesty, I know a lot of people have presented a lot of studies, but I don't need those studies to tell me the effect that it's having on our students psychologically. It's terrible and it's harmful. And it's not just the students, it's the staff as well, adults. And I've experienced these results in the classroom personally. And I strongly urge each of you to consider an optional mask for students, as well as some other recommendation or some other way for people to all be able to go back to in-person learning before COVID. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Next, we have Michael and Katie Sarnoff. The topic will be school mask.
Good evening, Board of Ed members and Superintendent. I was here 3 weeks ago. I was very nervous. I said something very short and sweet about masking and how I wanted it to be optional when I thought we actually had the chance to do that. I gave you several links of studies showing that masks were ineffective at stopping viruses and actually do more harm than good. I appreciate those of you who actually reached out and showed interest in learning the other side of this. That's the side you don't see on mainstream media. 2 days later, Murphy announced that masks would be mandated again. I'm sure most of you were actually relieved because now you didn't have to make a decision on this topic. Although I did notice in the text yesterday from the school that the administration was planning on making masking optional, and I do appreciate that. I don't know if you've ever heard the term mama bear or papa bear before, but there's a lot of us out here, and there's a lot of us watching. We will not stop fighting for medical freedom, religious freedom, and the safety of our children. Even though we may feel defeated at times like right now, we know that now is not the time to be silent. I want my children and all the other children out there who have had a hard time breathing and learning with their faces covered to know that we did not stay silent. The reality is that since March 2020, due to the unprecedented circumstances, our country and state administered a rapid response to the universal implementation of face masks without any differentiation between adults, adolescents, and children. It was apparent that the moral reason to obtain free and voluntary informed consent prior to administering a medical intervention was outweighed. Most of us, and myself included, complied without sufficient understanding so that our children could receive in-person education. However, things are different now. We do have sufficient understanding. There is existing data to establish masking children is unnecessary and harmful. There's plenty of evidence of the negative effects on the immunological and psychological level of forcing children and adolescents to wear a face mask, which outweighs the potential gains. Even though I'm just a quacky chiropractor and not a real doctor, which people remind us all the time, every day, I know that these masks have not been proven safe. In fact, the WHO states, quote, "The widespread use of masks by healthy people in the community setting is not supported by high quality or direct scientific evidence, and there are potential harms to consider." They also said, quote, "Masks worn imperfectly are dangerous." Dr. Jim Meehan, an MD, stated that we are killing brain cells when we are wearing masks. Cloth masks do not stop viral particles. They're too small. Just like vaccination does not automatically equal immunization. It never did, hence all the breakthrough infections, and the CDC director actually stating that this shot does not cover these new variants. This leads me to my next point. Why not count those who've had the virus and recovered and actually have natural immunity? Is there any way we can do that? Show the antibodies? rather than testing every week, several times a week. That's ridiculous. Natural infection usually equals lifelong immunity. It's very rare to get the same or similar viruses twice. God, our Creator, gave us an amazing immune system. So when challenged, we make antibodies and T cells and B cells. I believe this mask is basically the dangling carrot, which will lead to mandatory vaccines and/or discrimination and segregation to those who choose not to. Our children have a 99.9997% chance of surviving this virus. And every teacher has had a chance to get the vaccine if they want it. But if they don't want it, that's their choice. My body, my choice, right? If vaccinated people can still contract, as Amber said, and spread COVID, then why are we mandating it? Does that make any sense? What are we doing? I know someone mentioned the Nuremberg Code. That means if you coerce or bully someone into doing something or getting a medical procedure in order to get an education or go to work or go to a restaurant or function in anything normal society, you're breaking that code. Another thing, my last point, is that I see you all wearing masks now, but an hour ago, half of you weren't. You were taking them off to speak, you were putting them back on, and you're not expecting the same for the children. It's a double standard. You had to take yours off so that we could hear you and understand you. What about kids in school? Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't need the whole 5 minutes, but
Usually you come up as one. Mr. DeSanto, are they okay?
thank you. A little taller, can you hear me? I'm here to support my wife. I'm here to support children. My father went to this school with the DeTomos, the Marcocellis, when we had an undefeated Vineland team. I know most of the people in this room either as friends, patients, or peers in the community. I appreciate you all being here. I don't think anybody 18 months ago knew that you were going to be in this position. But we kind of did. My favorite president is right over my left shoulder, and I have a feeling if that was a live figure of Lincoln, he'd be shaking his head. Medical freedom does not mean anti-mask or anti-vax. I'm the current president, second term of the Jewish Federation of Cumberland, Salem, Gloucester County. We know all too well how the government deceived people to make the Jews seem like they had a disease, and they drew pictures of them, and they got the community to hate them. Therefore, they were allowed to do the atrocious things they did. We have a Nuremberg Code that will not allow that to happen again, as my wife just mentioned. Coercion is number one. Lottery tickets, concert tickets, have your job or not. Oh, you could take a test, but the test is $139. Why are we giving free vaccinations away but not free testing? It makes it very hard to comply for people who don't have the ability to get that covered. It's coercion, and it's inhumane. You don't have to be anti-vax to be for medical freedom. The term the number one study on CDC and masks. Anybody in this room read it? Raise your hand if you did. You don't have to quote it. It's about two hairdressers who had a number of clients, and because they wore masks, they didn't contract COVID. It's a very small study, number one on the list. I posted it on Facebook just a few days ago. Yet, a Danish study who said that masks were irrelevant with 3,300 members was considered by the CDC too small. I started this talk by saying I'm amongst what I believe is friends and level-headed people. you're in a bad position. The governor's put you in a worse position. But we as a community, after the public leaves, our board could write a letter pleading. Is there a way, to do this without being so concrete? It's heart-wrenching to hear that woman's story who's fearing for her kids. I'm a humanitarian. But should we lock down healthy kids? This is the first time ever we've quarantined healthy people. We're going beyond public health and into a very slippery slope. The masks are going to be replaced by vaccines for everyone, no matter if you've had COVID, no matter if you've had the antibodies, no matter if you have a good medical reason, because no doctor's going to sign that. We're both doctors in this state. We know the board will come down on you. You better have a obvious reason, like someone died of the first shot in your family, maybe. Or someone had a reaction to the first shot, they can't get the second. Doesn't matter. Can't get your job back. This is a slippery slope. In closing, I just want to say that I really do appreciate your time and your position. And if anything, I'll say this. Sheriff Barufi once told me, Sarnoff, look both ways when you cross the street. If you do it once, it was worth me telling you. If my wife and I being here and these other people being here have made you think at least a little bit how we can get to some sort of normalcy without mandating everyone this one way or the highway, no treatments. Why isn't there a White House panel of treatment options? Why are we censoring scientists who have them? Why is PolitiFact the first thing you see when you Google ivermectin? A political website debunking it when proven studies show that it works, and studies all over the world. I pray for us all. I hope we all, no matter how scared we are, get through this virus the right way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael and Katie. Do we have anyone else this evening?
Next, we have Joy Marion. The topic will be vaccines, mandate, and testing.
Good evening. My name is Joy Marion, and I have been a special education teacher for 18 years. I'm here today to speak about mandated vaccines and weekly testing requirements. There are numerous things I'd like to talk about tonight, like critical race theory and how our educational system is failing our students. But for time purposes, I will keep it to the COVID flu vaccine mandate. The COVID flu vaccine is not the traditional vaccine that we all took as children. This is new technology that has not gone through full clinical trials. We have no idea the implications it will cause in the future. The COVID flu vaccine, like the flu shot, only protects us from a few strains of the virus and will still require additional booster shots. If the COVID vaccine is not meant to cure the virus, but only potentially protect you from it, then why is it treated any different than a traditional flu vaccine? It is widely known that people who have gotten the vaccine have still gotten COVID. A mandate is an order, not a law. If we as citizens, teachers, parents, allow the government and our state leaders to impose mandates as law when it comes to our health and our personal choices, then we have lost our freedom. This is the time we must put politics aside and stand up for our children and ourselves. The required testing that is trying to be implemented for non-vaccinated people is an infringement on our personal health rights. I've seen reports regarding the swabs that indicate they are made in China and contain carcinogens. I'm a relatively healthy person. If I get the virus, there's over a 99% chance that I will recover from it, even with the Delta variant. I am not willing to expose myself or my children to biweekly testing. Every person in this room listening to this should be outraged. and fearful of what could be next. If we allow fear and misinformation to take the place of common sense and facts, we are handing over our future and our children's future freedom. I personally will not be getting the COVID flu vaccine. In addition, I will not be tested for a disease that I do not have. If I am sick, I will go to my doctor. I hope my words made an impact on you and gave you something to think about. Don't be afraid to question what you've been told. We have the ability to say no to our government. Remember, they work for us. We, the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
Next, we have Natalia Bauman. The topic will be virtual remote learning and how it should be optional.
Good evening, everyone here, and thank you for your time. You are definitely in a very tough position here, and thank you for taking the time to listen to all of our concerns.
Can you just please speak in the mic?
There are a lot of
Thank you.
concerns here that people are asking as far as if we don't feel safe sending our kids back to school in masks or being required to follow certain procedures and protocols that we're not comfortable with. My question is, why was the virtual learning removed as an option?
On the Roberts Rules, we do not exchange in dialogue. We, as a board, can listen and digest. Good. So.
Well, I was hoping to find my answer here when coming to the board meeting. I'm not seeing a good reason of why it was removed if we don't feel safe sending people there. So the stores, they removed their shields, and the cashiers, a lot of shields have been removed everywhere, yet we're still implementing them more and more. The cleaning agents, I don't feel safe for my kids to be breathing them in the school. Even if they are low volatile, I don't want them breathing them. I should have the option of not sending my kids to school and not having them have to go through this. So masks, we also know, are only effective for 30 minutes, which is not the case at school. They're not changing them, they're not washing them, they're not bringing 10 masks to school to switch them out, including the buses. As far as covering up your face with a mask, you are inoculating your lungs with a bacteria. You do not have free air exchange. There's more carbon dioxide inside of your lungs, and we are already seeing respiratory diseases on the rise, and they will continue rising because you're not cleaning out your lungs. You're not exhaling everything that your body is supposed to exhale. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Natalia. Have anyone else this evening, Ms. Leary?
No, we do not.
Thank you for everyone from the public for speaking this evening. At this time, we have our motions and resolutions from our superintendent, Mr. Lano.
Okay, discussion regarding personnel items 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. 1.1, specific to retirements, resignations, students, substitutes, extracurricular activities, and extracurricular summer activities. 1.2 references adjustments to pay rates for substitute clerical employees, substitute building maintenance workers. 1.3 is to request an approval for all certificated full-time district staff members to be eligible as potential home instruction tutors and assignments, and to keep those names on file with the board secretary.
Do I have any questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Roll call, please, Ms. Leary.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Cataspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes to all, and abstain from extracurricular summer Duran clerical.
Next, right? Yes. Okay. Discussion regarding procedures and operations 2.1 through 2.7. 2.1, approval of trips and district travel. 2.2, second reading of the noted policies 1 through 19. 2.3, approval for the abolishment of certain policies. There are 5 of those policies that are referenced on the agenda. 2.4 is a requested approval regarding the waiving of time requirements for the review according to policies 0131, bylaws and policies, and that is referenced in policy 1648.11, the road forward, COVID-19 health and safety, which is a new policy. 2.5 is seeking approval for MOUs for the purpose of ensuring a level 2 evacuation site for each district public school as listed on our agenda. 2.6 is requesting approval authorizing the approval of our district social emotional learning curriculum for grades 6, 7, and 8. And 2.7 is requesting approval authorizing the district to enter into a dual credit agreement with Atlantic Cape Community College.
Do I have any questions or comments? Mr. Yano, I have one question concerning 2.6 of the agenda, approval authorizing the board secretary to approve the district SEL curriculum for grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. I know we had discussion at this through committee, and it made it out of committee, and that's why it is on the agenda. But for the public and the board members that don't sit in that committee, can you give me a brief synopsis on how we get to this approval, please?
Absolutely. So one of the areas that the district has committed to, this started last year, is a focus on improving the district's social emotional learning curriculum. Our guidance supervisor, Dina Rodolfo, worked with district guidance counselors on developing a social emotional learning program for grades 6, 7, and 8, which was also reviewed through the curriculum office and Mr. Fry, and building principals and other additional staff. Should there be additional background needed, Mr. Fry is ready to provide additional context, should you request that.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments from the board?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please, Ms. Leary?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Cottasbody?
I have a comment. I did a clarification with Mr. DeSanto so that I could give the comment now as I voted. After reading and going through 2.6 for grades 6 through 8, I do understand the subject matter, and it is curriculum related and oriented. However, there are some of what I read with all 3 grades that deal with matters that I believe should be taught in the home and not in the schools. This is my personal belief. And at the very least, it should be taught at home first or given the opportunity. So I am not comfortable with voting for yes, and therefore I am voting no to 2.6. I will vote yes to 2.1 to 2.5 and 2.7.
Congratulations.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
I too would like to sentiment the comments of Mrs. Cottasbody. I'm all about choice. And being that there isn't a opt-out clause for such curriculum for parents who would like to opt out and have their children opted out of these classes, I vote 2.1 to 2.5 yes, 2.6 no, 2.7 yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
I also want to echo Ms. Cottasbody and also Mr. Rivera. I vote yes to everything except for 2.6. I also feel that, you know, my religious beliefs, I feel like I should have the option of doing this on my own at home first. And so for that reason, I'm voting no for 2.6.
Thank you. Mr. English?
Yes. What was that count? 4-3.
Yes, 4-3. Actually, 1, 2, 3.
No, 5. Apologies.
Spinelli's not here.
Right.
So it's...
Thank you. We do not have any items under buildings and grounds. Let's see. So discussion regarding finance items, 4.1 through 4.5. 4.1, specific to a grant as provided and on file with the Secretary of the Board, New Jersey Youth Corps, in the amount of $376,525. An approval regarding the acceptance of the follow-on adopt-a classroom donation by Subaru to Sabatera Elementary School, value $3,000. An approval of a resolution for a contract to the child care providers and paid by ECPA, ECPA funded in accordance with the list on file with the Board Secretary for the 21-22 school year and in accordance with a form of contract approved by the Department of Ed. 4.4, approval regarding professional development workshop for Veterans Memorial School to be held on September 3rd in the amount of $1,500. 4.5, approval regarding the following Cumberland County Regional Cooperative Transportation Initiatives. Number 1, 2021-2022 bid number 3 award. Number 2, 2021-2022 jointure.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Cataspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes. Okay, that concludes superintendent recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Yano. At this time, we have our 10B section where we have proposed items for review or discussion or adoption by board members. Under number 1, we have discussion right now concerning regarding the superintendent's goals. As you know, board members, under contract, we have 60 days. We need to set the goals for our new superintendent. We went through our retreat. We had discussion on that. In front of us, we have our superintendent goal A, B, C, and D. At this time, I can open the floor if anyone would like to add anything or delete anything. I can start to my right. Mr. Fiocchi?
No recommendations. I'm fine how it's written in the agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes?
All good.
Ms. Acosta?
They're acceptable to me.
Ms. Cataspati?
They're good.
Good. Mr. Rivera?
I'm okay with them. Yes, for me.
Mr. Sabrana?
One item I might want to suggest adding to B would be under communications to reconstitute a committee to develop the calendar for the school year and include all stakeholders, administration, staff, and perhaps parents and community members.
That is duly noted. we're having discussion on this now. Mr. Yano, that pretty much is it is a broad statement, B. But what Mr. Sobrano is saying, that's something that I would definitely like to consider as well, because it'll kind of bring us into our 10B number 2 item. In years past, that has been the way some things have been. I think it's more of an informational thing where when a group gets together, who really picked that group and who made that decision, and then next thing you know, a decision gets made and something does get missed along the way. I don't have any issues with that. Do any board members?
That's a good suggestion.
It falls under and of course, remember, these are the goals that you will be evaluating the superintendent on if you're a non-conflicted board member. So, you know, you guys will handle that accordingly, of course. Mr. Silva.
Looks good to me.
Looks good to you. Mr. Yana, do you have any comments on that?
No, the only comment I would add is that the work around developing a calendar could be one of the items that falls under B as part of the action plan to develop and improve those communications, right? So I see that as a absolutely appropriate connection.
Absolutely. In conjunction with the superintendent goals, usually we have our board set of goals. And with it being COVID last year, with our New Jersey school board reps, we got kind of derailed from board goals. In talking with our rep, she respectfully suggested a couple things, and I just want to throw it at each of you so you understand. We hired a new superintendent recently, and she had suggested that the number one goal of the board should be to make sure that we provide the superintendent with the tools necessary to move forward and achieve his superintendent goals. She also said that we could possibly get together before the end of the year. Currently, she retires Tuesday, and we are yet to have a rep to replace her, so it's a little slippery slope there. Usually they facilitate that type of event for us so we don't get off task. But if board members would like to set some goals other than the one that was recommended that I agree with her on, we can do something like that, which is open for discussion. But the main concern tonight was to discuss the 4 superintendent goals because they were time sensitive. Our goals can mesh in September or October accordingly. So any problems with that? We in agreement with that? Fine? Okay, so at this time, Mr. DeSanto, what is the proper way to make a motion? Or
Yeah, because the goals are part of the superintendent's contractual process, I suggest a formal motion to approve the goals as stated in item 10B1 A through D as the basis for as part of the basis for the superintendent's evaluation.
As board president, can I make that?
No, no. In fact, I suggest, because you and Mr. Silva should be out of all involvement with the superintendent's evaluation, that the two of you abstain regrettably, and the other non-conflicted members can vote. Who makes the motion? I'm sorry.
So whoever would like to make the motion, and then it would need a second, of course.
I'll make that motion,
Okay.
as to what Bob just said.
Okay. It's duly noted. We have a second, and then you can ask for a roll call.
Roll call, please.
Yeah, you can participate.
Mr. Costa?
Yes.
Mrs. Cataspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Rivera.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
He's not.
Mr. Sobrano?
Yes.
Oh, she didn't take
Mr. Silva?
I'm voting yes in my mind, but I have to abstain.
Yes.
Thank you.
I apologize, Mr. Silva.
Mr. English?
I abstain as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion does carry, and you have your goals in front of you, and best of luck achieving them. And then we have, let's see, under 10B, number 2, discussion regarding the opening of school and the request for delay presented to the district by the Jewish community of Vineland. Just a brief synopsis, we've been contacted by several members of the Jewish community concerning Rosh Hashanah this year happens to fall on the same day that we are opening school. In years past, it's been different dates. Before I went away on vacation, I had a brief discussion with our superintendent, and just a very generic question was, is this something that we can accommodate, being it is the first day of school? And through quick conversation, he said absolutely, something like this could be accommodated. He wanted to make sure logistically things could be done. Recently, one of the board members asked that it be put on the agenda for discussion again from each board member. Things like this, in years past, it hasn't been a day off in the district, but because it fell on the first day of school, it was a respectful request, and being the superintendent had no issue with that, which just the history on it is, Mr. Yano started on July 1. The calendar is set a year in advance by the previous superintendent and then voted on the board. I did speak with Dr. Gruccio, and Dr. Gruccio said it was something when they were doing it that she totally had missed, and if she would have saw that, she would have recommended starting a day later as well. As board president, I am confident because it is not affecting anything with the start of the school. I do understand that means we add an additional day to the school year, but out of respect for the Jewish community, I am only one vote, but I do not have an issue with starting school a day later. And I can start again to my right with Mr. Fiocchi and see what your feelings are.
No, I agree.
on
I have no problem shifting the start one day forward.
Mr. Holmes.
What are other school districts doing?
Right now, Millville and Bridgeton are starting the 7th, and CC Tech is starting the 13th. So, again, this is one of the things where the Jewish community has understood in the past that it falls like on the 2nd or 3rd week, and, this was a situation where if it could be accommodated, they respectfully asked, and I just wanted to get it to the forefront because I did receive quite a few phone calls, and usually when I get a dozen or more, it does bring the attention that it deserves board discussion. So that's why it got to this level once it was requested by a second board member. Any thoughts, Mr. Holmes? No?
This wouldn't be the vote. It's just
This isn't the vote. No, this is just that they would like to have any input. Ms. Acosta?
I would be in agreement, and I would go as far as, I understand it starts Monday evening. School starts the 2nd, so the 7th, right?
School's on the 7th.
So would we be starting on the 8th?
We would be starting on the 8th of September, correct?
Right, so Rosh Hashanah actually is observed this year on the 7th and the 8th.
I would suggest beginning September 9th. That way, there's, those students that would not be coming in because of Rosh Hashanah, they wouldn't have to miss school, and everyone would be starting on Thursday, the 9th.
Okay. Duly noted. Mrs. Cottasbody?
I agree with Ms. Acosta.
Okay. Mr. Rivera?
I'm in agreement with potentially starting it on the 7th. However, my initial concern, just out of transparency, was that if we grant this request, what other groups or individuals within our community would like similar accommodations in the future? So that's my concern. I'm all for, at this point, postponing it one day, but that would be my concern for the future.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because it falls on the first day this year, and usually it does fall later, this would be only for this year, correct?
Correct. And again, everyone, and I believe, Mr. Yano, don't let me speak for you, but we did speak on case by case because we know this can start some type of a possible past practice, but this was something because it was the actual first day of school, not the third Wednesday in September and Thursday. So that's, yes? So realistically, it's
We're just voting for this year.
correct.
We're just talking about for this year.
Correct. And what this does is, I would hope that it draws more attention to what the county, the community does, because if it is a group of 12 people that happen to not be Jewish or Catholic or whatever it was, it would have never really, you don't know that. I mean, I can guarantee if I decide to say December 25th, we're going to school, we would be here till midnight. You understand what I'm saying? So it's just, it was a simple request.
I had several people.
Mr. DeSanto?
Yes, I just wanted to mention something for the board's consideration. This would require a formal motion to amend the school calendar, but this will also affect the back end of your school calendar. So in your discussion, perhaps you can consider if there's a start September 9, what is your completion date? Because that gets impacted by this. So I just wanted to throw that into the discussion.
Right, absolutely. May I jump in? Right, so any change that we make at the beginning of the year impacts the end date. There's also, by moving our end date back one day, our district is required to observe Juneteenth on the 17th of June. So we would have to push the day back to the following Tuesday, I believe. So the only thing I'd like to point out is, yes, it's easy to change dates because we can do that. You know, we'll just go longer. You know, we'll have more days off at the beginning of the school year after the second and the third report dates. It's this year that we're addressing it. But once you put dates into a calendar, next year's conversation, there might be consideration requested again of the district. It's difficult, as Mr. Rivera said, other organizations might be requesting how to add their holy days to the calendar. We are a very diverse community. We have many different groups here who celebrate a variety of dates that are approved on our New Jersey Department of Education list of approved holidays, where folks can take personal days or an excused absence. Just so we know that it does open up a lot of area for additional conversation, and many school districts have moved away from celebrating religious holidays within their calendar because of that reason, because it becomes a slippery slope of who do you include and who do you exclude in that process.
Is that if we're moving 2 days to the 9th, and then there's the holiday, that means that the end date, which we should state in the motion, is now going to be June X, so that we have September 9th and June X.
So let me ask Dr. Sneeden, because she has her calendar, and she's been going through, looking at if we closed, and that would mean the district is closed because we're observing a holiday, Rosh Hashanah, the district would be closed on the 7th and the 8th. All staff would be closed, right? No one will be reporting. First day with students would be the 9th. So we have to add 2 days to the end of the school year.
And that's pending no snow days, correct?
Correct.
What would be the date? Did she say?
I'm done.
You're done. I heard from Mr. Rivera. Did I hear from Mr. Sobrano? Mr. Sobrano.
Well, I support changing the calendar this year. Also, for that reason, I also wanted to recommend that we have this committee for future consideration of these calendars. And it is a slippery slope, although Rosh Hashanah is a pretty important holiday in the Jewish calendar, and I don't know how to weigh the importance of other faiths and other religions events, but it's something that would be considered. Also, this is the conversation that should have been in April and not in August. and I wanted to try to avoid that for the board next year and years moving forward.
That's kind of when you use the word stakeholders as a blanket term, but really stakeholders mean everyone. And it's hard to get a lot accomplished with 200 people in the room, but realistically, we approve it in front of us. And to be honest with you, I don't think anyone has looked for Rosh Hashanah on the calendar. It was brought to our attention from the Jewish community. Again, as somebody would bring up Christmas or Easter to me. As a board, many a times we've considered, we're one of the few counties that do Good Friday, Easter Monday, and then the rest of the week. But then everybody complains we go into too far in June. Well, it's real simple. You can cut 4 days out like the other districts and go to school after Easter Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. For years, we were told we don't have a decision in that. But I've been told recently that we do. So that being said, that might be a discussion for the board. Again, you know, it's...
For example, next year, it begins on Sunday, September 25th.
Yeah.
So the school year will be begun, and it's a different conversation about...
It's a different and it is case by case, I'm stealing you.
I agree with everyone, but now, are we considering possibly excusing the staff members or students that take that religious holiday that day so we can continue as business as usual with the start of school? Because I remember in school back in the day, we had to fill out a form of that holidays that we actually observe, and it was an excuse absent. So I don't know if we can possibly think of excusing these students or staff members that observe that holiday so we can continue with the start of school being the 7th.
I don't know how it works as far as what staff does or what students does. I don't know how it used to be. I don't know how it currently is. So if you want to enlighten the board on that.
For students, it's fairly straightforward. It would be an excused absence. It is an absence from school, but it's excused because it's a religious observance. We have a list of observances that fit that criteria, and students would be allowed to miss a day without penalty. For staff, there's tenants in multiple contracts that allow for staff members to take time that's been afforded to them. In this case, it would be a personal day where you could take and observe a holiday at no penalty. It's one of your days that you have built into your contract. So that is how many districts observe those type of religious holidays. It just happens that it's a very important date, and it's on the first day of school with kids. So the outreach that we received was that teachers would not be present for instruction on that day, on the first day of school. Yet, we're also impacting almost 10,000 students by changing the first day of school back 1 day, back 2 days. Arrangements have to be made. So whatever we decide, we need to communicate that as soon as possible, because there will be child care coverage issues for families who are working that we need to also take into mind or keep in mind.
And then see what passes, and then
Yes.
one day?
If you have someone who wants to make a motion in a second on one of those options, then you see how that vote goes. Yes.
Okay. Does
But-
anyone have any questions or comments before we go to a vote? Seeing none. Okay, then we need to, the first motion would be to
It would be a motion to amend the school calendar to set September 9, 2021 as the start date and June 22, 2022 as the end date. Is that correct?
Bob, what I think we have here, this Juneteenth just came in as a sidebar. So Juneteenth was not on our, is that added into the motion as well? Or is that just considered?
Let me just confirm with Dr. Sneeden, because we got to make sure we got the end date correct.
Just want to make sure that they have 180 days of school.
That's right, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah. See, they didn't have it before. With the old calendar, it didn't.
So the old calendar didn't have it, but now
Because
it's
it
an
was
observed
after school.
holiday,
Right. Yeah.
which
Right.
is a legal holiday, which
Exactly.
means no one would be going to school. So if the last day happened to be on Friday this year, it wouldn't matter because this holiday has trumped
Right.
the initial calendar that was approved. Gotcha. So that's it. Listen, I think let's focus on this right now. You can amend the calendar, and then we could do a second motion for Juneteenth.
No.
No, Scott, what I'm saying, unless I'm misunderstood, under the current calendar, that holiday isn't factored in because it occurs after the end of school?
No.
No?
No.
Well, they're saying yes, and you're saying no.
On the current calendar, the last day for students is the 16th. The 17th, if we were in session, we would have to be closed because that's the observance of Juneteenth.
That's why you have to extend
So
3 days.
none of the kids, no one will come into school. If we extend the day 2 days, we wouldn't come in session on the 17th because we have to legally observe Juneteenth. So we're adding the 2 days, the 20th and the 21st. So the last day for students, June
Okay.
21st. The
I'm
last day
sorry.
of staff, June 22nd.
Okay. All right, so it would be starting the 9th and ending June 21st?
Starting the 9th, if the board wills,
Yeah.
2 days, starting the 9th, and then the 21st for students, the 22nd for staff. I believe Mr.
Yeah.
Silva has a question.
Okay.
So we're voting on either 1 day or 2 days?
2 days right now.
Because if you're,
Right, this
okay,
motion
'cause
would be
if you're
2
going to
days.
observe the holiday, then it has to be the complete holiday, not just part of it, so.
Yeah. Can't split the holiday.
Because that's the more important day.
I was under the understanding the holiday was Monday and Tuesday. I was told now that it's Tuesday and Wednesday, correct? We were starting school on Tuesday. So now we will be starting school on Thursday in observance of the Jewish
Two-day
holiday.
holiday, the two-day holiday.
Yes. And it happens to work out that way because it was the start of the school year. It might be a moot point next year.
Right, correct. Well, it would be because.
I'm sorry?
It would be because it's a Sunday.
And the motion I just read to amend the school calendar to set September 1, 2021 as the start date and June 21st as the end date, with staff coming in on the 22nd, Mr. Yana? And of course, it goes without saying because of those dates that this is only for the 21-22 school year. You have to make it clear that our record shows that this is not precedent, that this is solely for this particular school year.
Whatever Bob said.
I have a question.
September 2nd.
Right.
Is it a logistical nightmare or can it be done? That's pretty much it. It's a yes or no. It's good? We're good?
It's a logistical challenge for parents who have to figure out what to do on the 7th and 8th. We can make the adjustment tonight. We have to just make a decision and then communicate that out as quickly as possible. So staff would start on the 2nd and 3rd for their professional development activities. We will be closed on the 6th already. We're closed on the 7th and 8th. First day for students would be the 9th. The last day for students would be the 21st. The last day for staff would be the 22nd. This is barring 0 emergency days for weather or other items that may close us. Yes.
Right.
Right.
Right. I understand. Mr. Rivera.
It was my understanding that Rosh Hashanah begins at sundown on the 6th and until sundown the 7th. So it doesn't begin on the 7th, it begins at sundown on the 6th.
Sundown on the 6th is when it begins,
the first
and then
day
it's observed on the 7th and the 8th. Ends on the 8th at sundown, and return to work, it concludes on the 9th.
Okay.
Is that correct, Dr. Sneeden, as far as the? Correct, okay, that's right. Right.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? I want everyone to understand it, because again, you're going to get questioned in the public as the board members, so.
There's a large Indian population in our city.
Yes.
Are we considering all of those days that they're, because we won't be in school if we are.
I would definitely, this is me speaking and Mr. Young.
Well, we're in the 9th hour.
Yes.
I don't feel comfortable changing the calendar now.
Okay.
And we're starting school next week, right? Or teachers are reporting next week.
Well, they're still going to report next week.
My point is,
I say it goes to. Sure.
In my long career in personnel, was to address these holidays. That was the history of how personal days started in contract.
So if I was. Yeah, you know what? Come to the mic so I can. Correct. So let's use Good Friday and Easter Monday. They're Catholic holidays, okay?
It's a historically Judeo-Christian calendar. And as things evolved, I think as Mr. Holmes is saying, the answer to that way back, I'm 35 years in personnel, personal days were intended to be used for this purpose. The other, I don't want to disparage, holidays that were not Judeo-Christian were considered personal days. And that's where it's remained. The world's changing rapidly, but that's where it remained.
So if policy and personnel wants to discuss what we're doing with personal days, I think it's a great topic for discussion, because as I'm learning tonight, there's a lot of law and things that, just because it's law and mandates, that things are subject to change.
Private employers, those who are working more and more from home, have gone to what's called PTO and not defined leave days. They've called them PTO, time off that you choose. Could be Christmas, could be New Year's, could be Rosh Hashanah. It's your choice. That's working from home, private industry. We care, as you all know, for students. So that's the difference maybe with school districts.
Okay.
Dr. Rossi, a question for you. There's nothing in their the BA contract that states that they cannot use personal days the first 10 days of school, or
No, there is language about consecutive, there is language about notice. Those would not be problems in this case. As I said, I believe the origin of these days is for the purpose that you're discussing.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, my board, I task you with this challenge of a yes or a no vote. So, do we have a question? Do we have anything, Bob? Okay, Bob, the motion's on the floor for
Amending the school calendar to set the start date at September 9 and the end date. I'm sorry. The motion is for the 21-22 school year to amend the school calendar to set September 9, 2021 as the start date and June 21, 2022 as the end date for classes.
So move what Bob said.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Cataspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
No.
Mr. Rivera?
No.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
No.
Mr. English?
Yes.
5 yes, 3 no.
What do we have? 5-3?
5 yes.
Okay, the motion carries. And again, many people worry about the past practices, and that's part of the challenge as board members that you take when you take the oath to become a board member. You have to make the tough decision, and this is one where a huge part of the population contacted me directly, and it was, again, it's how we do things, guys. It's 5-3 vote, so we're moving on to the next agenda item, and thank you for the discussion.
And a lot of discussion centered upon it being the start of school as
Correct.
the distinguishing factor.
Correct. And it also piggybacks on what Mr. Sabrana said. You know, we've all been board members a long time, and we use that word stakeholders a lot. And when the future boards continue to pick these committees, it's time to really make them as diverse as possible, because that's the only way you get the knowledge. So I know that you heard it loud and clear as part of the superintendent goals, so you're inheriting that. At this time, do we have the approval of bills? We don't have any bills. That's a good month. Hey, that's a thing of beauty.
She's doing a great job.
Do we have any old or new business? Emergent items, like how oh, excuse me, at this time we had an emergent item. It was New Jersey Governor Executive Order 251 and 253 regarding indoor mask and proof of vaccination / COVID testing. Before we have discussion on this, Mr. DeSanto, can you give us a synopsis again, how we got to this point?
The popular executive orders require that school districts adopt policies implementing those executive orders. It's my understanding that Labor Council has worked with Dr. Rossi and Dr. Sneathen to propose a couple of policies, one for the masks and one for the vaccination. My personal opinion is that the board does not have to act on the vaccination policy tonight. That those requirements go into effect October 18th. And as Mr. English alluded to, a lot can happen in the next week, let alone in that period of time. There could be changes. The court matter may may affect things. There could be guidance from DOE. So it would be my suggestion that you consider the proposed policy for the executive order regarding masks only, because that took effect August 7th, I believe, the date of the executive order. So, you know, it's I'm sorry, August 9th, yeah. So, you know, that needs to be done before school starts. So I would suggest if there's a discussion, it should be regarding the policy involving masks.
So routinely, this stuff like this goes to our Policy Personnel Committee, which Policy and Personnel did not meet this evening. This is the second meeting of the month, which this meeting technically is about a half-hour meeting, but there was a lot on the agenda. Usually it's just personnel. Make a long story short, Policy and Personnel will be meeting, but school will... Yeah, right. And there will be no board meeting then because school is officially closed now. So we will have a board meeting the following time. So this is a policy that needs to be discussed now concerning the mask mandates. I know that we've listened to the public speak at the podium this evening, and the public's the people that put us in the seats, but I listen to everybody. I understand both sides of it. I might have used the wrong terminology tonight, and Ms. McBride pointed it out several times to me. When I discussed the governor's decisions, they're more of a roller coaster decision. Now, we're all about the safety here, but what happens, it is very unfair to a school board, it is very unfair to central administration, it is very unfair to the community, the parents, the students, when you're still changing with 2 weeks to go to school. So now if we could have had a nice clear-cut plan before, it would have made it a lot easier for all. So I do apologize if I gave you the wrong idea with my statement, and thanks for pointing that out. What we have to do here as a board is this mask mandate is a serious discussion. I'm curious to how the board feels. I mean, I know how we felt 6 months ago, a year ago, 6 days ago. If the board would like, go ahead.
Yeah, excuse me, I have to interrupt you, Scott. The executive order requires the board to adopt a policy, every board. It isn't a vote on whether you think masks are required. It isn't a vote on whether you think masks are a good idea. That's not the issue here. The issue is whether or not this Board of Education is going to, for now, honor the directive of the executive order and adopt a policy to implement that executive order. You know, it's a situation where, you know, you have two sides to the story. You have a number of people that were here tonight on one side, okay? But the point is that the mandate and the requirement for a policy is a directive. Does this Board of Education set the example to the community and to the kids that we honor the mandate? As much as we might disagree with it, do we honor the direction of the executive order? All right, and that's what it is. It isn't whether or not you agree or disagree with the mask mandate, whether or not individual rights should trump the directive. You know, that's not the issue before you tonight.
So it's not even a discussion. It's just...
Yeah.
So it's a moot point.
Just like if, you know, if you accept the fact that executive orders, unless they are abolished by a court, executive orders have the weight of law. And I'm sorry if people might disagree with that, but that's what it's all about. That's why the other districts have to go to court to plead their constitutional challenge to it. Otherwise, we'd be a vigilante state, and we just simply say, well, we're going to ignore the governor's directive, and then it becomes rather problematic in a lawful society. I mean, so you're right. This is a matter of, your discretion is what's in the policy. I don't know if the board has been given copies of it, because I don't know. Have they been provided copies in their packet?
It's on the agenda. Has the board had a chance to review it? Everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
I have Dr. Rossi at the podium.
Excuse me, Board, there is one key issue that is relevant to your current comments, and I would defer to Bob. There is a timing issue to correspond with the executive order. The fully vaccinated person must be so by October 18th. That means the second dose must be administered by October 4th. I would think that if we're cooperating legally with the legal mandate, the policy would have to include that so people understand the board has a policy about fully vaccinated by October 18th, which means second dose by October 4th.
Yeah. All I was suggesting, Joe, was that this is not an emergent item perhaps for tonight. It could be reviewed by the policy committee and presented at September 8th or 9th meeting. Would you think that would be sufficient time?
No, understood. I just want to say one more thing, and I'll sit down. The people who came up here tonight were looking for the board to perhaps interpret or say something that either corresponds or disagrees with the governor. So I think the policy is going to do that, that we're going to adhere, as Bob said, to what's mandated, because obviously the ladies and gentlemen that spoke tonight feel you have some sort of decision to make.
I heard exactly what the people said this evening at the podium, and what I, as board president, am understanding is there is still a possibility that I can draft a letter up with the superintendent, and we can send a simple request to him. That doesn't hurt anything. It lets him know how the Vineland Board of Education feels. That would be a discussion I would have with my fellow board members, and if that's something we want to do, I don't believe that hurts anything. As far as what's in front of us, yeah, I hate to use the word moot point, but that's exactly what it is. And we have a policy personnel committee that is designed to meet, discuss a policy, create it, interpret it, read it once, read it a second time, and we vote. I understand that this is time sensitive, and that's what goes back to the roller coaster type decision making that continues to be made in New Jersey. And it's just mind-boggling, because now we're to a back against the wall time frame, and it's not realistic. When I got vaccinated, I couldn't get it for another month. So is there a penalty for October 18th if you're not vaccinated by the October 18th? If you're making the attempt?
You just have to get tested. If you're not vaccinated, you have to get tested.
So I mean, it's pretty much in writing what has to be done. We just have to agree with a policy that is subject to change by his decision tomorrow, for God's sakes.
Mr. English?
Yes.
Legally speaking, violating an executive order is subject to punishment and is deemed to be a willful violation, is deemed a disorderly persons offense, which could be chargeable by 6 months in jail and up to a $1,000 fine. So I'm just saying, this is unfortunately, and I respect everyone has a different opinion, but we're dealing here with an executive order, and to violate an executive order has consequences, and I just want, it to be known.
Thank you for sharing. Mr. Young.
And it's important for us to reflect on both of these items, because we have a district to run.
Yes.
That's orderly and safe for all staff and students. We can't have a situation where we're going to be in schools having conflicts around mask wearing or vaccination status. If you don't choose to be vaccinated, there's an option for you, get tested. But there is no option to refuse to wear a mask in school.
Correct.
So what we need to do is, in my opinion, is to address this tonight, because as school leaders and district leaders, we need to message out that we expect our schools to open in an orderly fashion. We don't want to be in the newspaper for conflicts that you see happen in other states. People being assaulted, different types of challenges. We don't need that. It won't look good for all of us. We need to be able to move forward in a very peaceful and community-driven way. So that's why.
It goes back to 10B. We gave you goals, and our board goal is to make sure that we give you the tools to be able to succeed and perform. Ms. Cottaspotti, what do you have for me?
So basically, the governor's telling us what we have to do, but taking it back to make it so it's the board doing it, which is really not the board doing it, it's the governor making us do it. He's making us do this.
He's making us do it?
Right. However, so if we have to put this through, so let's say one of us decides to not agree with the policy as it is and vote no. So does that mean we're going to go to jail because we're, I mean, it's our right to have an opinion, to vote the way we want to vote. I understand. I mean, I know there's a lot of boards that are now appealing. So, however, if we were to do this, we could still write a letter and send them our thoughts.
I have no problem with the letter. The appeal or the challenge, to me, is a moot point because as taxpayers, it's already been filed. The public watch the meeting and spend 5 minutes. They know where we stand on this. I mean, it's no secret here. The point that I guess that needs to be made here is we are a board that's governed by our policies. We learned in Governance 101, hug the policy book and you'll never go wrong. The minute you violate the policy, you get in trouble because the policy is there to interpret how you act. And that's it. It is real simple. So,
Mr. English?
Yes.
To answer Ms. Cottaspoti's question, when board members take the oath of office, they are swearing that they will uphold the law of the state and the education laws of New Jersey. And there's no reason why, even if someone voted yes for the policy, that vote can be under protest, indicating that I don't feel and I don't agree with it. So this way it makes it very clear how your feelings are, but on the other hand, it allows you to discharge your duty to uphold the law as a board member. With respect to the letter, Mr. English, that would require a vote because, if you were to send a letter, you must make sure that you have 5 members that support that letter. So whether or not you do that tonight or some other meeting or send it to committee first, that's going to be up to you. But I wouldn't send a letter unless you have clear authorization from the board.
just for clarity, this is about as fresh as it can be in our mind for discussion. Does somebody want to make a motion on that tonight? I mean, is that what you want? You want me to put it to vote?
Well, I think you should deal with I'll withdraw my suggestion about, I think you can look at both policies tonight rather than fragmenting this thing to allow the superintendent consistency of the timing, and I think I agree now with Dr. Rossi's statement.
Each board member, do you understand what's taking place here? I don't have to go into a dissertation about what we got to do here. So realistically, then, you...
No, you're making to approve.
A motion to approve the policy. It is strictly the policy, because there's many policies I don't agree with.
Now, do we have policy numbers assigned, Dr. Sneeden? Yeah, these are the executive order numbers. I haven't seen them. Because the motion would be to waive the time requirements of first and second reading, and adopt policy number X and Y. I don't know what they are. I thought she said she did too.
Do we have a policy for this? We don't have one yet.
I thought Nicole.
We don't have a.
That's the governor's executive orders. That's
No.
not policy.
Oh, it wasn't attached? Because I thought Nicole sent to Dr. Sneeden the policies, the form of policy.
Okay, the question that I need to know is, do we currently have a policy that we as a board can approve? If we do not have a policy as a board to approve, then I'm going to be upset. So, I mean, it's very hard to conduct my meetings when I don't have it in front of me. I mean, these last-minute decisions, but you can't expect me to have a board support something when we don't have it in front of us. It's not fair to each one of these people up here. Then they read it 2 days from now and say, oh, that's not what I thought it was. That's not on my watch. I'll take a recess right now if you would take a recess, and if you want to have a discussion on what to do, that's fine. But I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Can't hear you.
Daniel, can you go to the microphone so we can...
I was under the impression that Nicole sent to Dr. Sneeden 2 policy forms, which were...
It is very hard to do that when the mandates just come at you like
So this
a
one,
mosquito.
this one came quickly. We got this today back from the attorney with the wording. We made some modifications to it. It is attached to your agendas, what we're asking be approved. It's just not on that policy document, so I don't have the number, the next series and the numbers that it would get.
Okay, at this time, can I make a motion for a 5-minute recess so we can review the policy?
No, we can do that. Go ahead, take a motion.
Motion for recess. Can we get a recess?
Yes, so moved.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. All right. Listen. we get back in session, has everybody had a chance to read? We're good.
We're good.
Good.
All right, let me correct that. So,
Okay, thank you and welcome back. At this time, we will continue our discussion on New Jersey Governor Executive Order 251 and 253 regarding indoor masks and proof of vaccination/COVID testing. Mr. DeSanto, I believe...
yes. Mr. English?
Yes.
The board has been handed a two-page policy entitled Vineland Board of Education Policy Concerning Face Masks. I suggest that, and I spoke to Dr. Seethan, this should have policy number 1648.12. Mr. Yano tonight introduced policy 1648.11, the road to return to school. Okay, so this would follow the next number, 1648.2. The second policy is Vineland Board of Education policy concerning COVID-19 vaccinations/testing. That would be 1648.13.
Okay.
So under emergent items, if the chair would entertain a motion for the adoption of 1648.12 and 1648.13, you will address the emergent item.
Do you have any questions or comments before we go any further, Board? Okay, thank you for your time, and I apologize for the miscommunication this evening. At this time, do we have a motion to accept policy 1648.12 and policy 1648.13?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Scottaspati?
I'm voting yes under protest.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes on the protest.
I'm sorry?
Yes on the protest.
Mrs. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes, under protest.
Yes.
Mr. English?
Yes under protest.
Thank you.
Okay, that rather confusing session. For all you future board presidents out there, run away from emergent items whenever you can. 13 and 14, old/new business. Do we have any old/new business this evening? I just have some new business real quick, and I know it's been a long night. Just something just to update the board on and the public on, and I'm not sure if it was in the road back plan, concerning class trips and things like that. Do we have any plan for that? Will you be executing something like that? I know that we've had in years past some sports programs that have left states. Is that something that what are we going to do travel-wise?
So as of this point, there are no restrictions on class trips. We intend to honor all of our curriculum-based class trips. We're also looking at our athletics trips on a case-by-case scenario. Any trip that goes out of state, we're looking at carefully because there are sometimes challenges with receiving funding back. If a parent pays for their airline ticket and let's say hotel reservations, some of these companies are not allowing you, they're non-refundable. So before we commit, we're making sure we explore every possible avenue and making sure that we're not making any mistakes. So there are a couple athletics events that are on hold at the moment, and we're working with the athletic director to make sure that before we approve it, we have a clear way of making sure that we're protecting our parents and students, from outlaying money that they can't return or can't receive back.
No problem. And just one thing that's important to understand, and this is coming from me, I'm speaking for myself, not for the board. I'm really only concerned what Vineland Public School District's doing moving forward with this, okay? I am not the president of any other school district. Mr. Yano is not the superintendent of any other school district. We can only focus on, if we're going to get lost in what other districts are doing, from travel to anything, we're just going to continue to spin our wheels, and the students are the ones that suffer. So the other thing I have for you concerning new business would be, you answered my question about the class trips. We have the rental facilities. Who polices that the people that are renting our facilities are following these so-called mandates and things? I mean, I have no problem renting my facilities out, but if you're not here, and he's not here, and I'm not here, how do I know that they're in compliance?
That's a great question, which I don't have
Okay, well,
the answer
that's
to
fine.
right
No,
now.
that's just for the record. I wanted to get read into the record. And again, you can just get back to me via, it's just two things that we have some organizations that rent out all, I can use the VBA, for example, outstanding program. It puts 2,500 kids in a community where they can utilize playing basketball. But are we going to have these mandates that make it almost impossible to have that? And I think they need to know before the season starts. So it's something that I think we need to jump in there. And if we do open the so-called door to one organization, then we'll pretty much have to open it to all of them. So I don't know if that's communication with the recreation or how we normally do it or who's currently doing it in the district, but some type of an answer. And I guess that can go through our facilities meeting next, but I just wanted to put that under the radar for just some of the housekeeping for the start of the school year. Does anyone else have any older new business? Okay, seeing none at this time, board member remarks. I will start to my left with Mr. Rivera.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank every single person that took time from their day to express themselves to us. Just know that your comments, your concerns, your worries do not fall on deaf ears up here. We care about this community. We care about our children. We care about the staff of this school district. I have 2 young children in this school district, and my concern as a parent is them. Like I said in the last meeting, it's hard to please everyone. And whether you say yes to masks, no to masks, yes to vaccinations, no to vaccinations, there's going to be a group of people who are going to be upset at you, regardless of what you decide or what you say. I personally am all for choice. I believe in choice. I believe that once you remove choice, you can't live in a society, an American society, that's no longer America. I would like nothing more than for all of this to just go away, and we could just go back to normal. But we as board members adhere to an oath, and we have to abide by that oath, as much as we hate it. I would like to wish every single student, teacher, staff member a wonderful and successful school year. Quiero desear a cada maestro, cada estudiante, un año escolar lleno de éxito. Because at the end of the day, when we all succeed, if one of us succeeds, we all succeed. And I want nothing more than for this school district, and I've said it time and time again, for this school district to be the #1 school district in this state. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Mr. Sobrano.
I agree with a lot of what Mr. Rivera said. I also appreciate the comments of everyone who spoke tonight with great passion and conviction for what they believe in. I also believe in choice, and I also believe in personal responsibility. Unfortunately, that's something that not everyone has done. And I don't mean the people that were here talking tonight. I was also reminded of something that I was told the day after I got elected the first time. Be prepared to find out how little you can actually do sitting up there. because we're given mandates like that we don't agree with, that we wouldn't do if we had an option, and we don't. It's very, very frustrating. And 20 years working here, and the last 6 sitting up here, this is the time that I couldn't even begin to imagine that we would ever be in this situation. Not just the pandemic, but the way that this is played out and the dramatic differences in how people feel on both sides of the issue, and how we get put in the whipsaw every single day, and almost to the point where you're afraid to go out because you know that people are going to say things to you that are very upsetting because you don't have any control over it. We can't wish it away, we can't will it away, and we can't make it go away on our own. We're doing the best that we can. I know that's not going to make too many people happier tonight, but that's not what we signed up for. On a completely different subject, I saw a wonderful picture today of the 70-some people that we have, our new hires for this year. I wish them the best, and for everyone, parents, students, staff, families, a safe and a successful school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sabrana. Mr. Silva.
I also feel the same as Mr. Sabrana and Mr. Rivera. I'm also a firm believer of choice too. You know, certain things that we have no control over. We have mandates, we have executive orders that we have to follow. If you don't follow, you get penalized for it. So it is a very tough job. You can't make everybody happy. I do have 2 sons that go to Pillow, and I want nothing but their safety and everyone else that's in there to be safe as they go to school. And on a lighter note, I had the privilege of attending Sergeant Dominic Pillow's 6th grade orientation. It was a wonderful experience. Principal Bermudez did an excellent job answering the question of the parents. We had an opportunity to go to class to kind of mimic what the students would do, and the teachers were able to answer all of our questions, and overall it was a great experience. So I just want to wish everyone a safe and great school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Mr. Fiocchi.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Holmes.
Nothing at this time.
Ms. Acosta.
I just want to thank everyone who appeared tonight. Again, I echo my fellow board members' sentiments. These are very difficult times as a community, as a school district, as a country. I think we've been dealt with some really difficult times, and just when you think we were close to the light at the end of the tunnel, you know, we get socked with, you know, it going a different direction. However, I am extremely thankful to our new superintendent, to all of central administration, to our wonderful staff, our teachers, because I am so excited that our kids are finally going to be able to go back to school. I think children have been under a lot of stress and anxiety about what the new school year is going to look like, but I think that they're going to find that they are so much more resilient, and we're going to find that they are so much more resilient than we even know. I wish each and every one of our students the very best for a wonderful, productive, and happy school year. And I just want to reassure the community that we are doing the best that we can do under some very difficult circumstances. There is no right or wrong answer here. However, we do have to follow the mandates that are dictated to us by the governor. And so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Acosta. Ms. Cadaspati.
First off, I'd like to the families of Coach Parentazzi, Juan Bernard, and Matthew Kuhnreich, my thoughts and prayers are with you and your families. and your friends for the passing of your family member. I would like to echo what my fellow board members stated earlier, Mr. Rivera, Mr. Sabrana, Mr. Silver, and now Ms. Acosta. I too am a firm believer in choice, and we are doing the best thing that we possibly can to make sure that our students and staff stay as safe as they possibly can. To those who spoke tonight, Ms. McBride, Ms. Weber, Leah and Amber, I apologize, I didn't get your last names. Connie Giovinazzi, Joy Marion, Natalia Bowman, and Drs. Katie and Michael Sarnoff, thank you for coming out. I appreciate all of your heartfelt thoughts. It takes a lot to speak your mind, especially when what you're speaking about may or may not be controversial. Sitting up here with things that we say, not everybody's going to agree with, but that's what we're here for. But we're here to listen to you, and we take everything that you guys say to heart, and we do discuss things. Congratulations to those students who were honored tonight for their contributions to their school and community for the annual Unity Day. To Superintendent Yano and his leadership team, thank you for the presentation and all the hard work that you guys are doing and will continue to do over the past couple months. To our assistant superintendents, Dr. Sneathen, Mr. Fry, Dr. Rossi, our supervisors, our principals. I know I see a principal out there. Quinn is out there. We have everybody down here. Thank you. To our support staff, our teachers, everybody. You guys are working nonstop, and we don't see what you're doing every day. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you do day in and day out, especially now because you never know what's going to happen. You see things change, like at a moment's drop of the hat. School is right around the corner. I'd like to welcome everyone back. I also want to wish everyone a successful and a productive school year. I'm hoping and praying that one day soon we'll be turning the corner and we can get back to pre-COVID. Have a great rest of your summer, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Ms. Cataspati. Superintendent Yano.
When I came to Vineland, I was told how passionate the community is about the education of their students and inclusive. We want to hear the voices of those who may be on the margins at times. So it was challenging this evening, but it was also enlightening to see the variety of viewpoints and the fact that this board is willing to listen and adjust when needed. Sometimes, like we just did, we adjusted our calendar. We're also looking at some different practices. So I understand that, I appreciate that. I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I also want to say a special thank you to Mr. Fry and the curriculum supervisors. They put on 3 days of amazing professional development to prepare for the school year. They covered the curriculum, they covered observations of teachers, they covered how to use data. The selections and the options were varied and exciting, and it was wonderful to see our supervisors taking the lead and our director of special education as well, along with her department, on presenting a quality program for all of our administrators. Dr. Sneathen, 70 plus new teachers today. What a wonderful event. Amazing group of educators. They are, can you imagine the experience that they are going to have? You know, they're coming in at the most incredible moment, right? You know, we didn't start, most of us who were educators, we didn't start in this fashion. They're starting in a very troubling time, but they're ready to rise to the challenge, which is exciting. 70 plus new employees to our school district. Also, just a great thank you to our school leaders for the orientations that they're holding at Pilla, at our middle schools, at the high school. It was so wonderful to see all of the students and their families coming out and supporting their students as they begin their new challenge, their next event. And to our support staff who are working out there in the daily grind, Paul and his team, and Mike. And hey, if you know a bus driver, can you please send Mike Hall an email? Because we're looking for drivers still. We need some folks who have that CDL and are ready to work with our kids. And Mr. Provenzano, welcome back. Looking forward to continuing our work
around security, because we know that we're going to have some challenges in the school year, and looking forward to looking at the plan that we're going to put together. So thank you again to the administrators, to our teachers. Looking forward to seeing kids in classrooms, and looking forward to a much shorter board meeting the next time we come together, hopefully. Maybe not, but we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Yano. Ms. Kataspati wants to take from my 10-minute time here, so let me give
I
her-
forgot to thank our BA too, because she does so much work behind the scenes, and we have a new super and a new BA, so I appreciate you. And to the board members, we might not all agree, but I appreciate every one of you, because if it wasn't for you guys, you know, we make a team, and we ultimately...
Taking my thumb, Hey, listen up, guys. I hate to hit you with one more piece of board business, but while it's fresh in my mind, I will make a motion right now that that superintendent and board president get together and sit down and put a letter together to send to the governor to just let him know how the Vineland Public School District feels with the way things have taken place during this COVID thing and as they continue to evolve with this COVID. What I'm asking that I have the support of the board to sit down and do that. I would ask each of you to also send me some of your thoughts on how everything has rolled out the last year and a half. So with that being said, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Can you clarify what you're asking?
We are going to, both the superintendent and myself will get together, and we're going to write a letter to, not an appeal. We're not going to waste the taxpayers' money. People have done that. They're going to get an answer. This is a letter that comes from the board president. I represent each one of you, and the superintendent who represents the entire district. Just letting the governor know how we do feel down here, because we do have a voice. And it might help, it might not help, but at least it lets the public know that put us in these seats that we are taking the time to go that extra step. And each one of you, I'd like you to, take a couple days just to put some thoughts into it and send them to me so we can make sure that everyone was heard from the Board of Education. So that is what the goal is. Did I get a second on that motion? And I asked for a roll call, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mrs. Acosta?
Yes.
Mrs. Kataspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Have at it. Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mr. English?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for the support, board, because again, you're hearing the same stuff I'm hearing too, so it's a joint effort here. Just a couple of quick things. We are starting a new school year, and it is unlike any other school year. They say every year it's a different year. Well, this is going to present some more challenges, and how we choose to embrace that challenge is how successful it will become. It's real simple to say, I'm not going to do it, or I refuse to do it. But I think that kind of mentality is what hurts a school district. If we're all in or we're not. I mean, if we're going to only get 90% participation for this type of thing, it's just not good enough. I listened to each one that spoke tonight, and hey, I pride myself on the passion, and I love when people come to the podium because you are the voice of the people. We get a lot of people that can't make the meeting and they email us, but to get that next step and come to the podium, it does take a lot of courage, and it really takes courage for the employee that works in the district because, in years past, let's face it, you always worry about that retaliation. I can tell you that doesn't happen. What I can tell you is it's your honesty that makes us think as board members. We're not perfect, nor are you. But if we can just get down in some type of consensus and maybe get on the same page, maybe it's something as simple as a letter. It's a start. It might not be the home run you were looking for, but baseball's not all about home runs. It's really about who wins in the end. And to me, the kids have to win. The kids need to win. And I understand the tough things that you teachers are going through, but don't you think that it doesn't start at the bus level, the maintenance level? They're doing things they've never done before. It's hard enough to drive a bus full of kids, but to make sure they all got their mask on and keep your eye on the road. Maintenance, it's tough enough to keep a building clean, but to make sure it's extra clean. I mean, everyone has done a remarkable job when you think about how bad it could have been. It could have been a lot worse. So let's maybe hone in on the positives that everyone has been doing. With that being said, I need to thank everyone. I go on forever. I mean, I start at the bottom and I work my way to the top, because it is a true team effort by everyone to make something like this happen. I can use the thought of 73, 74, 75 new teachers. It's funny how the joke is nobody wants to come to Vineland. Well, apparently somebody does, so we must be doing something right. There's a new vision here, and with the new vision comes change. How you choose to embrace the change is what makes you a winner, and that's what I'm here for. That's it, man. It's really pretty simple. I've said it many times. In my line of work as a plumber, we get paid to fix things. If I don't fix it, I don't get paid. So let's treat this next challenge as that plumbing job that needs fixing. I don't want a cold shower. I like to have a hot shower. So God darn it, let's do it. But it can't be what we're doing wrong or what I would have done. No, what am I going to do to make it work? To make it work. As board members, we gave a superintendent goals tonight. Maybe some people think they're generic, but it's a start for a new beginning. And we hold that superintendent accountable. I'm sure everybody thinks it's easy to sit in that chair, this chair. None of these chairs are easy, as I know it's not sitting in the chairs that you guys are sitting in. But one thing I can tell you, the work ethic that this group puts in is what I continue to hope and know that our people are doing. With that being said, I wish everyone a successful and a healthy and safe start of the 21-22 school year. And it is not going to be easy, but it's what we choose as employees, students, parents, board members, administrators to do with it is how successful it truly would be. To say, oh, it's not going to work, well, you already gave up. That's not the people I want on my team. I want the people that came to this damn podium tonight with passion, because I believe that, yes, what you said, I get it. And it's not, you probably didn't get the answer you wanted, but continue to take that passion to make the situation work, because you have students in front of you that you are the role models of. With that being said, I ask everyone to enjoy the rest of the summer, have a safe Labor Day, and do I have a motion for adjournment this evening? All in favor? Aye. Thank you and good evening.
Okay, Brother Scott.